The show must
For
go
real,
on.
man. Oh, for real. Right, guys. I think we're live. Yes, we're live now. Hi. Hey, everybody. Welcome to 101 Weekly 16. 16 weeks. That's 4 months that we've been providing you. Whoa. Okay, hold on a second. I've got to keep remembering to turn my speakers off every week. I know. Right, let's just have a look. Get my speakers all turned off everywhere. So listen, how have you guys been? First of all, I want to welcome Tom. Tom Aston, as you guys know, is a hardened member, one of the moderators of 101 on Facebook. So welcome him to the panel. This is your first time on the panel, mate. So welcome,
Thank
mate.
you.
How have
Thanks,
you
mate.
been getting on?
Yeah, all good. All good. Just trying to get through this lockdown, but actually finding out a lot about myself and getting some new hobbies and improving in a lot of areas, whereas I'm struggling in other areas like business and that kind of thing. So, trying to make the best of it. But yeah, I'm good. I'm healthy, which is the main thing.
Yes, it is.
So,
It is. And Ebony, how have you been, Ebony?
I've been all right, actually. I've been working because I'm a key worker. I have to go out to work.
Mm-hmm.
I've been when I can. I've been training every other day because I do shift work. So sometimes when I come home from work to do nothing, but some stuff fascinating over. The kind of stuff that's been left for years, and now I've got the opportunity to do them. So, and that's what I've been getting on with. But work's been pretty quiet. As you probably know, I work on public transport, and it's been dead.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
But the city or the country still has to be kept moving because people still need to go to work, and other key workers have got to go to work as well. So yeah, but it's been all right though. I've been enjoying the lockdown. It's been actually quite nice, and it actually helps one to appreciate the basic things in life, and assess what we take for granted.
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, I've been doing a couple of videos about the London transport, the protection that their workers are not getting, and obviously we've had 10 deaths from bus drivers. And I don't really know if that's, we've had 10 bus drivers that have died. One of them, really very frustrating, was somebody that I've known from Holloway Road bus station, who a lot of Arsenal fans have bantered with over a time, and he passed away last week. I think it was about 4 days ago. I did cover it on my page when I did my lockdowns, and it's heartbreaking because you wouldn't think that. You'd think doctors and nurses need PPE and protection, but they haven't thought about all the people in services, like your ambulance, your fire services, your London transports, your rail and tube, all those people.
Even Sainsbury's and Tesco, workers in those kind of places, they're the most exposed as well.
Yeah, so, and you think about it, how much thousands of people are those people seeing every day? It's crazy. So, and they're not being protected at all. They're in the firing line, and it's harsh, man. It's harsh to see that they are a victim of what's going on right now. So listen, blessings to all of you guys who work for all the services and the NHS out there. We respect you. We love what you're doing, and just keep on pushing through. Hopefully this government will get it right and treat you guys right, and there'll be rewards for you after this. Let's keep our fingers crossed, man.
Yeah.
So listen, guys. Yeah, go on, Tom.
I was saying, hopefully Boris, after his experience, will have a little bit more, humility. But we can always hope,
Yeah, we can.
I think he's actually going to be forced into giving the NHS and key workers a better deal now from pressure from the public. So actually, I can't see any other way. It's funny, Barack Obama predicted this 6 years ago. I posted something yesterday, him saying that we need to be ready for this kind of thing, because this kind of thing does come around every
of course,
now and
again. We know MERS, we know SARS, we know Ebola. Yeah. And obviously he set up the bio-defense team, which then Trump closed down in 2018. So I mean, what can you do?
Well, not trying to get too political, but Trump needs to be locked away. That guy's dangerous. So
I think they're going to try and do that when he comes out. Obviously, when November happens and they have the vote there for the elections, we'll have to see what they do. If he gets kicked out and Biden gets put in, we'll have to see what they do with him, because he's committed so many acts which they have not been able to do because he's a sitting president. So it would be nice to see if they march him straight out in a straight jacket or into the back of a meat wagon. We have to wait and see what happens there.
Yeah.
So
he's
listen,
like
guys.
He's like a real life David Brent, except it's not a comedy sketch; it's real life. So
it's real life, man. We're playing with people's lives here, and it's just unbelievable that when this all started, a lot of his base was saying, "Oh, he's going to take it seriously. He's going to make the right decisions." Even when this all started, he continued the same things that he was doing. All the shade, all the mistruths, continuing to do that while there was a worldwide pandemic. And the rest of his Republicans were on the stock exchange, putting all their millions and billions on trying to take advantage of it all. So sad. So sad. But you do get them, and we've had them over here in the UK as well. I mean, it's just people. We thought a lot of these people would be trying to help us, and no, they're not. They only care about themselves. And we'll have to see what happens. We'll have to see what happens with that. So, guys, listen, moving on to our first topic, which is Aubameyang. Yeah. Now, we've brought this up a couple of times here, and we've had various views about it. And also, a big shout out to everybody in the chat. We've got 4 people watching so far. That number normally goes up to over 20 as we go on. But we've heard now the Gabonese president of the Football Association there says he needs to secure a contract with a more ambitious club. Now, boy, I don't even know how to take that. But before I elaborate, let me elaborate. He's saying right now he's at Arsenal and he's won nothing. So it's a collective failing, which I like the fact that he says is collective. He's putting it on everybody's shoulders. And let's remember as well, he is under contract until next year. So he still has another year to go. But he's been in 2 finals, hasn't he? He's been in a Carabao Cup final. He's been in a UEFA final. So it's not like he hasn't had the opportunity to win honours. They've been there. We just haven't had them done. Guys, first of all, what's your thoughts about the Gabonese president now calling him out, saying he needs to go with a team with a better ambition, more ambition than Arsenal? Tom, because you're first time, I'll let you go first on this one.
Well, I kind of would have agreed with him 4 months ago under Emery, because the way we were playing, the way we were getting worse and worse every week, it was a disaster. The first half of the season was a disaster. Watford having 31 shots against us, Crystal Palace coming and slapping us up at home. I know it was like 2-2, I think it finished, Southampton and Palace games, but they totally slapped us at the Emirates, which teams at the bottom of the league were totally dominating us game after game. Emery was picking a different formation every week, never picked the same 11 two Premier League games in a row, I don't think, during his whole thing, and it was getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I think it's the Gabonese president of the FA, isn't it? Of the FA, it's not the president.
That's right.
It's firstly, it's not his place to say it, because it's not really his business. As long as Aubameyang is turning up and playing well for Gabon and doing that kind of thing, it's not really his place to say that kind of thing. I don't know the direct quotes. May well have been misquoted. May well be a media hype. But I would say since Arteta's come in, we haven't lost a game in the league this year, 2020. We've only lost 1 league game under Arteta, and that was against Chelsea. And really, we were robbed, because the guy that scored the equaliser shouldn't have been on the pitch, Jorginho. So I would, and the way that we're playing, we've got a 4-2-3-1 every week. He picks the same 11 where he can, barring suspensions and injuries. He knows his best players. He knows how his players, how he wants them to play. And I would say you give Arteta a summer transfer window and a summer to train with the players, I think we look in good shape next year. I mean, to go on your point, remember we're unbeaten in our last 8 games. We've had 4 clean sheets in those matches as well, and we've had 3 clean sheets in the last 4 games actually. So and he's watching a lot of footage with them now. The interview he just did with Sky Sports midweek. Did you guys see that? I haven't seen the interview. No, I enjoy. Arteta's interview, you mean?
Yeah. He's
I
talking
enjoy.
about,
I'll go and check it out because I like an Arteta interview. I enjoy his interviews.
yeah,
But
he's talking about he's giving them a lot of work to do. He's getting them a lot of footage to watch. He's treating it like that they are there at the training camp. So they've got videos where they're talking to the whole team and then sometimes one person. So they're all doing the training together.
I saw he's got them all wearing heart rate monitors and performance monitors and that kind of thing. I mean, if there's one thing I know about Arteta in the 4 or 5 months that he's been at the club, is he leaves no stone unturned. He puts as little down to chance as possible. Nothing is about chance. It's about controlling every 1%, 2%, 3%. So actually, this is a horrible thing that's going on. You know, Arteta unfortunately suffered from the coronavirus as well. I wish this wasn't happening, but I think with a manager as forward thinking as Arteta, it will work out in our benefit, having this time for him to actually sit at home, watch videos, monitor his players, look at other players, look at scouting, that kind of thing. He gets ahead of the game. So from that perspective, it may well be a good thing for us on the pitch.
Yep, excellent. And we've already got Mancini in the chat room as well, and we've got 18
is that
in there.
Emmanuel?
So welcome to you guys. Yeah, so from Goon Squad.
Yeah, I know Emmanuel. Yeah,
a lot of Goon Squad in the house right now. So yeah, we got 18 in there popping up. What's your thoughts about this? Also, guys in the chat, chip in, let us know what your thoughts are about Aubameyang. Ebony, what's your thoughts about Aubameyang?
I think, you know, the fact that, you know, the Gabonese president is in this, you know, I mean, I think it's the final decision should be down to Pierre himself. You know, Pierre needs to come. This is a conversation that Pierre would have to have with himself. Does he feel he's at the right club? Does he want to leave? Does he feel that his ambitions lie elsewhere? That's a conversation that he would have to have for himself, and that's a conversation that he would have to have with the manager. I think the fact that, you know, the Gabonese president is saying this now, you know, it's a bit, the timing's incorrect as far as I'm concerned.
Bad taste.
You know, it's a case of, look, Arteta's been there for not long. He's been there for 4 or 5 months. You know, if he really wants to leave, then let him go. That's if he really wants to leave. But that is a decision that he needs to make himself, and that is a decision that he make, and it's a decision that he would need to not be influenced by. You know, he needs to he needs to assess his career. He needs to assess what he can bring to Arsenal, which we all know he's a goal scorer. I don't think it's the Gabonese president, actually, it's not his place to make that type of decision or to tell Pierre what he needs to do. You know, the only person that can actually make that decision is Pierre himself. So I think the fact that, you know, Arteta he's doing a good job. Had Pierre not played his part in not actually turning up at Baku, he would have won a European trophy. So, you know, that's a decision that Pierre would need to come to himself rather than being influenced by anybody. But I like what Arteta's doing. I think he's doing a fantastic job. He just needs a couple more, or maybe 3 or 4 players to boost, particularly in the defense, and then we'll have a great team. But, you know, I tend not to listen to outside sources or people who outside Arsenal who make claims that a player needs to leave the team to fulfill their ambitions, because we've seen players go to leave Arsenal, go to another team, and their ambitions have not been fulfilled. And we've seen that in the case of Cesc Fabregas when he left Arsenal to go to Barcelona. His Champions League fulfillment, or his Champions League dream, was not fulfilled. We've seen Bakary
Sanya didn't win anything when he went to Man City.
Exactly. You know, what did he win at Man City? All right, he probably won the league, but other Arsenal players that they've left Arsenal and they're miserable. Or they've been miserable. So, let Pierre make that decision himself. Let him sit down. Let him have a word with Arteta. Let him have a word with all the other. Even if he has to have that same conversation with other players, let him have that conversation himself. Let him come to that decision himself. Outside sources need to back off, and leave the player to make the decision himself.
I think that's a good point because, listen, big shout out to Zach again from Goon Squad. Big shout out to Zach. And listen, he's saying, what's Aubameyang one playing for Gabon? Yeah. And that is a funny point. Yeah. Listen, let's go into it. He's also said the Gabon president is one to talk because he feels the same way about Aubameyang choosing Gabon instead of France. Internationally, he would have been he would have won the World Cup if he played for France. Yeah. So, you know what? Great point by Zach, and actually I wouldn't have thought of that myself. That's a great point because when you think about it in hindsight, you're talking about him as his biggest fan because you're the president of the nation, but he's won nothing with you, and he could have won everything with France. So it's actually very contradictory what he's saying. Wouldn't you say so, Tom?
Gabon also failed to qualify for the African Cup of Nations and the World Cup most times. So, not only has he not won anything with them, he rarely competes in a big. Has he competed in a big tournament for them? Do they qualify for the AFCON or?
No, not for the last two times.
I've not seen them in a World Cup before. I don't think they've ever been in a World Cup. So he's actually missing out on the biggest competition in the world by representing Gabon, which is, that's fine. But it just does seem a little bit hypocritical of the Gabonese FA president to say this, about ambition. One thing I will say, Aubameyang doesn't seem to respond to outside criticism well or like being told what to do in that kind of sense. I'm not saying he's like a dissentful player, but do you remember when he was told not to hang around with troops and he reacted very badly on social media?
Yep.
I don't think Aubameyang would like this being said to him by the Gabonese FA president. And I think that may work in our favour, personally. Just knowing him as the character he is, he seems to have respect for the managers. He plays well on the team. He seems to train very well, but he does not like being talked about in the media and being told what to do in the media, which is fair enough. So hopefully he responds like that and signs a new contract. However, if he doesn't sign, I'm of the opinion that no player should be allowed to come into their last year of contract whilst they have a good transfer value, which he does. So it's either he signs or we sell him now. I don't want him to go. I hope he signs.
And that's what we have to come to a conclusion right now. So between the three of us, we've got to make a decision now. Would you sign him or would you let him go? I know we talked about this, Ebony, about a month ago, and it was a really mixed bag between Tony, me and yourself and Bertram. But it's going to be on the cards, and the longer we leave it, the more things are going to envelope. At the time when we spoke, I believe his brother came out and started talking smack, and his brother was like, "Oh yeah, he's got to leave, and he's got to." And I've let you know my opinion on this before, and I think that you can't let him go on a free for two reasons. No. There'll be no value to the club, and there'll be no value to the player because the player would be 32. Going on 33 at that point, he's not even going to be getting a good payday. I mean, he might get a reasonable payday, but he's already on 200 grand a week here. So it's not like he's going to sign for 300 grand a week or anywhere else. Most of the top teams have got quality strikers. And that's the reason why the only time Barcelona was interested in him was when Suarez got injured. Well, guess what? Suarez is going to be fit in another month. So he's not going to play, is he? So
what's also interesting at this point in time is a lot of clubs are going to be struggling financially because of the gap in football right now.
Yeah.
So who's going to come up with the 50, 60, 70 million price tag? Now, perhaps Arsenal are going to be really struggling financially and Arsenal would accept a lower offer than that. So it's going to be a really interesting window, actually, whenever it happens, because some clubs are going to be really struggling financially. Some clubs are going to be a little bit better off and there will be bargains to be had. It's horrible. It's horrible to think of the idea of exploiting clubs, But if a club is struggling financially, they're going to accept a lower transfer fee for their prized assets. It's just a fact. So I don't know.
And plus, if he's got 1 year left to go, Tom, then that downplays the value considerably. You know, we know how much Henry and Van Persie was worth, but we got next to nothing for them because they were allowed to walk away with 1 year left. So Aubameyang with 1 year left, how much is that going to be? You know, he was 65 million last summer, his value. How much is he going to be worth this summer? Half of that? 30, 40 million?
About worth
30,
50 million
35.
this summer. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, with a year left, I mean, that's
50,
yeah.
It all depends on the player,
there
really.
are clubs that would actually take him. You know, Barcelona will probably take him, but then he'll probably be on the bench.
Yeah,
would Real Madrid take him for that money? How can they afford him? Would an Italian team take him as well, like Juventus, Inter Milan? Will they take him as well? You know, could they afford it? Judging the climate that we're in now. You know, I mean, if Aubameyang will leave, then it should be a decision that he's made as opposed to being influenced. And if he's going to leave, then we need to cash in on him now rather than looking at in retrospect. You know, he's not playing well and before we did it with Ramsey. You know, we don't need to do it again.
No.
And the promises that were made by the board as well, that, you know, we are not going to dawdle on players in their last contract. They either sign or we sell them. That is the promise they've made. So they need to fulfill that promise.
Yeah. That's actually one thing I liked about Emery. Emery came in and he said nobody's going into their last year of contract. If they do not sign 1 year out, they're sold. And that's one thing I'll give Emery credit for, is he was really, really strict on that. Obviously he came with the Ramsey situation. I don't think it was his fault. I think there was nothing really Emery could have done.
Perhaps if
he'd been a great coach, then Ramsey might have changed his mind. But, you know, failing that, you know, I don't give Emery credit for much, but I do credit him with that one, because he was very solid in his stance on that, and I agree with that as well. So
for me, guys, this summer I would sell. If I was in Mikel Arteta's position and I got no commitment from the player at all, I would have to sell. Tom, what would you do?
Well, I actually think he's going to sign.
Oh, okay.
I think he's going to sign, and option one would be him signing. That would be, for me, that would be the ideal situation. He's here. He's golden boot striker quality. You know, you can't replace 30 goals a season easily. You know, some teams never replace that kind of striker. I've got a feeling he's going to sign, but if he doesn't sign, then he has to go. It's either sign or go. There's no sticking around for 1 year and leaving on a free next year. You know, I'm fed up of that.
I agree. So that's two of us. Ebony, are you in there as well? And listen, guys in the chat room, what would you do? Very important. Would you sell him, or would you allow him to walk on a free? I think, and I've been talking in terms of what Tom said all along. You give him a last resort. You say to him, and he probably wants to see a bit of commitment. You know, Van Persie did, Fabregas did, Henry did. The difference is we didn't show those players commitment. Now we've got these commercial deals, we can start to show some commitment. So maybe we sit down and we talk to him and we say to him, look, if we can give you this, this, and this, a world-class defensive midfielder, another world-class midfielder, you've already got two great world-class wingers in Pepe and Saka. So if we can provide all of that with you and invest in the club, will you sign a contract? I think that's the conversations we need to have with him. But if you don't get no commitment from him, as Tom said, sell. Ebony.
I agree. I mean, you know, we don't know. I mean, it's a shame that this season's actually been postponed right now, because we would then have a clearer idea of what's going on with him and what's going on in his brain. So, or maybe not. But, you know, if he's not going to show commitment, I agree, you know, sell him now rather than wait until he's nearly 32. Just get rid of him, cash in on, you know, do what we should have done with Ramsey or other players in the past. Cash in on him now, you know, make some money, use that money to bolster up another part of the pitch.
Excellent. So we're pretty much all in agreement with that. And I don't think that the club can do anything else. They don't want to be held to ransom. Vinay and Raul have said straight away, we are not going to allow players to walk on a free. So this is their time, in my opinion, to back up what you've said, back up what you promised to the fans. You told them you would not allow players to take advantage of this situation again. So show us what you're made of, front office. Put up or shut up. Yeah, put your money where your mouth is and show us what you're dealing with there. Next thing that we need to cover off. Anything else? Anybody want to say about that?
I'd add one thing. Yeah, I hope he doesn't leave as well. One thing, it may well speed up Martinelli's development if he does leave.
Oh yeah,
because
definitely.
We saw when Aubameyang got sent off against Palace and Martinelli had 2 games. Can't remember who the first one was against, but he definitely scored. And then the second one was Chelsea away. I was at that game. It was incredible. And we went down to 10 men in the first half, and that run and that goal. I mean, the kid has got some minerals. So, you know.
And this is the difference, Tom. Everyone's talking about Hanlang at Borussia Dortmund, who's playing, by the way, in every game. Yeah,
Martinelli, he's amazing.
Exactly. Martinelli hasn't started for Arsenal in I think 1 out of the last 7 games that were recently played. He had only started one of those games, which is Chelsea, I believe.
And quite often he's out on the left. When he plays in the centre in the Europa League, I think, what was it, hat-trick against Frankfurt or 2 against Frankfurt? I mean, he got 3 against Liverpool, I think, in the 2 Bob Cup.
Carabao Cup.
He's every time he starts in the centre, he's banging goals. You know, he's fearless, and perhaps having a seasoned pro like Aubameyang out of the way would really help him develop. But I don't want Aubameyang to leave, but that would be a kind of, silver lining if it did happen.
Yeah, in regards to Gabriel Martinelli, I went on record last season and said that he's going to be the new Ronaldo, and because he can do everything. He can
CR7.
He can. I think he reminds me of how Ronaldo looked when he was at Man United.
I said this yesterday,
when he was an 18, 19. Yeah, he really does. And he's 2-footed. He's got an aerial game. He does everything. He can play behind either side. He's got everything, mate.
Actually, he's more direct because Ronaldo at United at age 17, 18 you could see the talent was there, but there were too many stepovers. There was too much faffing around. There was too much diving, whereas Martinelli's a little bit more raw.
He's more decisive.
Much more direct. He's got that leap. He's fast twitch muscle fibers are on fire. He's got the pace. He's got the leap. He's 2-footed. He's fearless. He can head the ball. He like you said, he's a machine. So it'd be interesting to see him develop to a 25-year-old. If he's still at the club, I think it could be something special. So
yeah, for real. And listen, Mancini is saying Martinelli, geez, give him time. Yeah, well, I think give him time, yes, but at the same time, he's just turned 19 now. And we look at what's happened with the likes of Marcus Rashford, who's banging goals in for United. In fact, he's their main striker. So I think that Arteta has done well to kind of curb his development. He hasn't started him, as I said, once in the last 7 games. So you can see what Arteta's doing. He's kind of cushioning the blow on the kid to make sure he's not being overplayed. I can't say the same he's doing for Saka, but that's because we just have been struggling in that position on the left-hand side.
He tried to rest Saka and then collapsed came off into it, didn't he?
Unbelievable.
I think Saka set up the 2 goals that won us the game as well.
Yeah. I was crying. I was like, are you kidding me? He's had 14 minutes rest. He's had 14 minutes rest. Oh my God. So listen, guys, let's move on to one of Ebony's favorite players, Jack Wilshere. Oh, wow. So Jack Wilshere today came out and said he regrets moving to West Ham. Oh, wow. So listen, Jack Wilshere left West Ham in 2018 and he's admitted his decision to leave Arsenal for West Ham. It's just not worked out. And the reason for that is we know that he is, but he had a good deal at Arsenal. However, I did report, and this was coming from, oh God, who was it? I'm trying to remember now. His agents at the time, SEM Group, that basically it was the 2 contracts Arsenal were offering was kind of a pay-to-play. It was kind of Diaby contracts. And when players see that, they're not really You know, if someone, and let's be honest, West Ham was desperate for somebody at that point because Mark Noble was aging. They just were, you know, they had so many injury-prone players themselves, and they were really looking to steal one. And they got a good deal with Jack, and it was a proper 3-year deal. It was a good contract. And obviously West Ham's his boyhood club, yeah. So let's not forget about that. But at the same time, he rejected 2 Arsenal contracts. He rejected 2 Arsenal contracts for a team that is literally nearly battling relegation at some point, and it just hasn't worked. He's played 16 games for West Ham in the last 3 seasons. So that's 3 times 38 games in the league. What is that, 114? So he's played, out of 114 games, he's played 16. That is horrendous. Cool. So Ebony, what's your thoughts on hindsight? So he's looking at this in a hindsight point of view, thinking he should have stayed at Arsenal. The grass was not greener on the other side. Arsenal's a bigger club. You know, obviously they were in 2 finals which they lost, but the fact is they were battling for honours, battling for top 4, and with a squad, you're not limited on how much you can play a player. You know, you don't have to burn a player out if you've got options in the middle, which is what we basically did. Let's remember before Jack Wilshere left, he wasn't really getting a run in the game because we were swapping players in and out, and we were maintaining his fitness due to just not overplaying him. So he had that for the last 6 months. What's your opinions on Jack Wilshere? And also, guys in the chat as well, let me know what you think about Wilshere's his comments. Do you think that he should have stayed at Arsenal, or do you think that, as he said, West Ham was the wrong move for him? Ebony.
In hindsight, I can see why Emery eventually got rid of him. He was too injury prone, and that's been the problem throughout his career. However, I would have, and this isn't sentiment, I'm not saying this out of sentiment, but I would have actually liked him to have stayed. I would have liked him to worked on his fitness. I would have liked him to worked on his recovery as well. But in hindsight, you know, I get what he's saying. He should have actually signed a pay-as-you-play deal, which would have made sense, taking into consideration that he is so injury-prone that he would spend a 38-game season, and just throughout the season without any add-on games, he would have probably played not even a quarter. So the pay-as-you-play deal would have made a lot more sense. Now he's gone to West Ham, and he's hardly featured in any games. He's probably featured in about 1/2 game back. His father, so he probably chose Sam because his dad supports them. But in saying that, he should have actually took the best deal at Arsenal, because I know he loves Arsenal. You know, he loves the club. So he should have actually taken that deal. And if he was injured, it would have been a case of, you know what, I'm not playing. I don't deserve to be. There's players fitter than me at the moment, and they deserve to be paid a regular wage. Whereas, you know, I'm like the white DRB. I'm always out. I'm always injured. You know,
white DRB.
The white, much shorter DRB.
I think, listen, 16 games in 3 seasons. That's 5 games a year, man. It's 5 games.
That's disgusting. And this is why he should have actually, in hindsight, I mean, I don't know how much he's getting at West Ham. But,
I think it's 70. I think it's 70,000. 70 or 60.
To be honest, and maybe this is the wrong thing to say, but I don't think he's happy at West Ham at all, to be honest. You know, and I'm sure West Ham fans, they had hopes for him because he was leaving Arsenal as a cult hero. So they probably thought, yeah, we're going to hero from Arsenal, but you know, it's not to be. I would have loved, like I said, I would have loved him to have stayed. I would have loved him to, you know, be paid as you played, but but he didn't like the deal, and he thought he was getting kicked out of the door, but he wasn't. He was actually being told, we will keep you, but we will only keep you on a pay base. But he took it as we want to give the heave ho. Went to West Ham, and he's not happy.
Yeah, because the fact of the matter is it wasn't like we were trying to push him out the door. We came back, Tom, with a second contract. We put another contract on the table because he felt that the first one wasn't good enough, and he still made the decision to leave. What's your thoughts, Tom?
Well, it's tough, because these guys have short careers. As an 18-year-old, Jack Wilshere took apart Xavi and Iniesta and Busquets. I mean, this is a kid that really was. I mean, he looked like he came straight out of Barcelona's academy the way he used to play. He was hit by injuries, and then he got to age 25, 26, hadn't been fit for a full season for 5 or 6 years, was a bit part player. I think part of the reason he doesn't stay fit is actually his style of play, because he's got this habit of driving,
holding on to the ball
and releasing it at the last minute, and he gets clattered, and he goes in tough on challenges as well. Should he have left? I think in hindsight, for him, probably not, but he didn't know. The way he thought it is probably he was going to get a good deal at West Ham. He was going to be starting for them every week, turn into their main man, their Mark Noble, except a technically more gifted version of, and hopefully play his way back into the England setup. I guess that's what he was thinking. Jack never let us down on the pitch. If he had been fit for the Europa League's final, I would have played him, because he was passionate. He always stood up to the big games. He always, he used to wind up the opposition. He was always up for it. He didn't let us down on the pitch. He's let himself down off the pitch a few times. I think he's grown up a bit since then. He's got a couple of kids now, and he seems to have grown up a little bit. But I know he was stumbling out of nightclubs and fighting and doing drugs and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, if we want to move forward, Jack Wilshere is not the answer. So as much as I love him and I thought he was a fantastic kid with great potential, ultimately we don't miss him. It's time to move forwards. We've got Guendouzi, who's actually kind of a similar player in temperament to Wilshere, and he's kind of
totally agree.
The same way. Yeah, totally he's got that passion. He covers ground. He gets into arguments with people. He backs his teammates. We've got that kind of guy. So, and Guendouzi stays fit, touch wood. So,
yeah.
I don't think I personally miss him, and I feel really sad that he's 28 and he is where he is, considering where he was 10 years ago and what the possibilities were. But ultimately, we had to move on, and there's no time for sentiment in football. It's a tough game.
It is, and listen, big shout out to Kez. Welcome to the party, Kez. He's saying Jack Wilshere would have been a player if he stayed fit. It was the right thing to let him go. And remember, Kez, we didn't actually let him go. We did want him to stay. It was the player's decision to leave, and that's why the statements were made today where he said he regrets signing the contract. He regrets the West Ham move. It wasn't what he thought it was going to be. And for me, as Tom alluded to as well, I think that Emery was we were just getting the hang of it. We had a player who was very injury prone, and we didn't burn him out. We only played him simultaneously or from the bench. He didn't really start too many games, but he came on, added an impact. And we were starting to see, before he left to go West Ham, we were starting to see a string of months where he didn't get injured because we wasn't burning him out. We wasn't overplaying him. So it's a real shame. Mancini is saying, Super Jack, we had to let him go. But again, good point. He needed the games. He just didn't get them. He didn't get them, actually. Didn't he go on Bournemouth on loan to Bournemouth before the move? Yeah, so, they weren't playing him at Bournemouth either. So, you know what, Tom, I think he's going to retire. I wouldn't be shocked to see him retire from the game. I really wouldn't.
Well, I hope not.
Yeah, I really wouldn't. I wouldn't be shocked.
He's 28. If he can get fit and stay fit, he's still got 7 years left in him, and he could get back in the England setup. The stranger things have happened in football. I think Vardy was still playing for bloody. Who was he playing for? Peterborough at 28 or so. So, it's possible. It's possible.
So, guys, listen. We're going to bring up these pay cuts. So let's set the record straight. So, as far as we know right now, only 2 clubs have taken a 30% pay cut, and that is West Ham, which was yesterday, and Southampton. None of the other Premier Leagues have officially taken a pay cut across the mark. So, for me, I think that personally, it's disgusting. I don't know what they're waiting for. Also, Kez is saying, I just think that he wanted to, what's that? I think he wanted to keep him. We would have done more. Yeah, probably, but a pay-for-play contract is all he was going to be worth in that respect. But as far as Arsenal pay cuts, what we've heard now coming out of the front office is that Arsenal have reportedly told their players that they will not have to take a pay cut for losses. Remember, Arsenal lost 27 million last year. And last week I said that we're walking into some huge, massive losses again this summer. A lot of it is because of not making a lot on the players that we've got. You know, I know that we sold Iwobi for 40 million, but we really haven't recuperated a lot of cash to balance the books at the moment. So what the front office has said is, we wouldn't need to take any pay cuts if Arsenal was to qualify for the Champions League. Now, remember, we are 5 points off and 4 positions off the Champions League spot. In my opinion, what a ridiculous statement. Mathematically, it might make sense. But how could you say that your players would not need to take a pay cut if they make the Champions League? Well, first of all, we're not even at the end of the season yet, so we don't even know whether that's true. What happens if you don't make the Champions League? How much losses are you going to get then? Are you then going to have to sell Aubameyang just to balance the books? I don't know. I mean, look, maybe it's just me, but I have no idea why Arsenal would say we do not need to take a pay cut if we make the Champions League. A pay cut is not just about the losses the club is going to emit. The pay cut's also to do with funds for the NHS, to see if you can put together, take that 30%, put it in a nice pool, and then help the NHS. It's more about just taking pay cuts. This is, for me, why I'm being so upset about the selfish nature of this whole thing with the Premier League. While teams like Barcelona have taken a 70% pay cut, and players like Ronaldo was forfeited his salary for 4 months, why are we still, after a month, having this conversation? Ebony? Ebony, you with us?
Yeah, I mean, the lowest paid player that we have is on 50?
350. That's Ozil. Yeah.
Actually, the lowest paid is Saka's only on $3,000 a week at the moment.
That's right, yeah, because he hasn't really signed a pro. Well,
yeah, he's still on a junior kind of deal. Yeah.
And Martinelli's $6,000. It's $6,000.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Even if they took a pay cut for like a month or two, they can still listen. These players are paid papers, all right? They're paid decently. If they actually looked after their money properly, they could actually not be. They could actually afford to not be to be paid for a year. So the idea of even like a 6-month pay cut, they can afford it. They can afford it. They have to. Not just Arsenal players, but then also other teams who are refusing to take a pay cut. They have to remember there have been no matches for the past 6 weeks.
Yeah,
There's been no matches. There's been no revenue. People have lost their jobs. People are not thinking about football matches right now. Some people aren't. They're thinking about, when will I get my next pay in order for me to pay my next month's rent or my next bill. That's what they're thinking about, and that's what some players need. And there is no money going around. The economy is screwed right now because there is simply no money going around. So therefore, they have to understand, they have to have the heart to say, you know what, I'm being paid thousands a week. I'm being paid X amount of millions a year. I can forego 6 months at least.
The thing is, for me, before I hand it over to Tom, the thing for me is, as you alluded to again, Ebony, is what are we doing with our money? I know. Look, I drawed out 300 quid from an ATM about 2 weeks ago. Don't nobody want to take no cash. People are like, no, pay on card. They've even increased they've even increased the wireless because they want people to use that. They don't want to handle cash, physical money. And what have we got to spend it on? The economy's crashed. All the shops are closed. It's not like I'm going to say, come on, babe, let's go to next door. Let's go to H&M and do some shopping and buy some clothes, or let me buy a suit or a tie or a pair of shoes. Everywhere's closed. So look, I know Amazon and eBay and all that, man, is still functioning. But right now, people are losing their jobs. It's not like you're saying, let me go and spend 300, 400, 500 quid. Everyone's holding their money to their chest right now. So as far as the players, yeah, look, mortgages are being deferred, loans are being deferred. As far as the players, what exactly are you spending money on right now? Look, 18 says it's a disgrace. Kez is saying the 5-point plan is ridiculous in his opinion. Just agree a percentage and get an agreement or not from the team. And I think the management should step in here. Adrian, good to see you in the chat, Adrian. He's taking his badges. Okay, that's another one. Agent, I reckon he's going to retire as well. Yeah, he's talking about Wilshere. I absolutely don't know why people are trying to not help their teams, their clubs, and whatever. Because what are you doing with your money? You're not doing anything with it. Tom.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I think it should be universal. I think it should be agreed by the whole Premier League what that number is, just to make it uniform across the board. You know, otherwise you have one club doing one thing, one club doing another. I think 30% is reasonable. A Premier League footballer is able to live on 70% of their wage during these times. If you know regular people are living on 8% of what they earn, up to £2,500 a month, It would be nice to see that kind of thing. I don't really like, the government kind of picking on Premier League footballers in this instance, because there are other industries where the same kind of thing is happening. Richard Branson is one who's, decided to furlough his staff at Virgin. You've got various millionaires, hedge fund guys around the world that are not around the UK that are not doing their part as well, So I don't really like Premier League players being singled out, but I would like to see them do something.
Yeah, and a lot of the players like Rooney and all them guys are saying, why are we being singled out? I think that I don't think, first of all, I don't think they're being singled out. I think that every club has to work for a budget. If a player is with a club, he knows that club has to generate income in order to pay the salaries and everything else. They know that those people who provide their food, clean their boots, wash their kits and everything, have a duty to pay, because the club has to afford to pay those people. Now, while the other clubs, the Championship, Division 1 and 2, we hear about clubs going down all the time. We hear it's in the paper every week. Those clubs are at the most risk. Part of the reason, I think 2 weeks ago, Ebony, on this same podcast, you heard me say each club should donate a certain amount of money to create a fund to help those clubs out. Luckily, the FA have done that. They've got 125 million. So they're sorted. Yeah, we're not going to be concerned about anybody folding, any football club folding. But these guys are looked at the upper echelon of this sport. They are the the top rollers, the high flyers in football. And as I said before, it's about setting an example to your club, to your country, to the NHS, the people that look after you. We've heard very little as far as charity from anybody in the Premier League to the NHS. There's been a couple of stories.
But isn't there a number of players that have gotten together to, raise some money for the NHS? I think
Jordan Henderson.
Aubameyang is involved.
And that's why I said there's been a few, but very little.
And that's a good thing. And it's a good, it's not a great deal, but at least it's something. At least they actually show they care. I hope that they're doing it because they care. It's not a question of footballers being singled out, because there are a lot of people that are being quite rightly mentioned as well. The biggest players that should be doing anything should be the government. They're the ones who should be helping. If you take into consideration that a lot of these MPs earn as much as some of these players, they could be doing their bit as well. So it's not just down to all the players, but then at the same time, players are able to take pay cuts, and players would need to understand that nobody's got any money out there. Everyone's broke right now, or
and really they're
much,
they're in a fortunate position. They earn a lot of money, and right now, as you said, Apollo, they're not spending it. They're not paying. They're not working at the moment. They will be doing fitness stuff at home, but they're not turning up to training every day, and they're not playing in matches. They have to understand that the revenue that they bring in on match day, from the tickets, from the pies, from the beers, from the from all the merchandise that's sold at the Armory and inside the stadium, they have to understand that that's not coming in at the moment.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's only temporary. Nobody's sort of taking their money for good. It's just a temporary measure. And I would imagine that everybody at Arsenal Football Club, every single player, would understand that and would actually accept a pay cut. But it just seems strange that it hasn't already happened.
It's weird, West Ham and Southampton. Those are not even two of the biggest clubs they're not even in the top 6. Why are we having these lower to mid-table teams stepping up to the mantle, and the big boys nothing? It's weird. It's absolutely. You'd expect. Oh my word!
Eddie Howe came out and voluntarily took a pay cut, didn't he? And I think he's the only manager to do so, and he's probably the least paid manager in the league, because Bournemouth are a tiny club really for a Premier League club. I mean, I've been to their stadium. It's tiny.
I mean, as I said, David Moyes, the whole West Ham, they did it yesterday.
Okay.
Maybe some of the top earners in the FA need to take a pay cut as well.
100%.
I'm not quite sure how much, but I'm sure they're on a year themselves. Maybe they can also take a look at their wage structure. The fact that some of these players, some of these teams are furloughing their non-playing staff is absolutely ridiculous. I think that is disgusting. How can you turn around and tell your non-playing staff, we're going to rely on the government to give you 80% of your wage? No, come on now. Use some of that money that you pay the players. And in actual fact, here's a good idea. Say to the non-playing staff, we're not going to furlough you. We're going to pay you as normal, as you were as if you're working, and then we're going to, and this is across the board, not just Arsenal, and we're going to cut all of the players' wages forcefully. So no questions asked. We're going to pay you so that you're still able to pay bills, because your bills are not going to stop because games are not stopping. All right, just because games have stopped, your bills are not stopping. Okay, the fact that you need food is not going to stop. All these things are not going to stop. So forcefully cut the players, cut the FA, people in the FA, cut and all those members of staff still be paid as if they were working. That's what should happen. But they're not going to think about that. Tottenham are furloughing their non-playing staff. Really?
Tottenham have come out of this looking really, really bad. Really disgraceful. Yeah. I mean, firstly, furloughing their non-playing staff. That's a disgrace. When you got guys on 200 grand a week, and then you want to pick on the guy that's on, 11 grand a year or whatever it may be, because serving hot dogs or selling programs and that kind of thing. And then also Mourinho in the park last week with 5 or 6 of his players. I mean, it's just like, it's beyond belief. Actually, they're a disgrace.
I think it's going to capitulate. We just heard news today that they'd put a price tag on Harry Kane's transfer. I think it's about 200 million or something like that.
200 million.
I mean, Yeah, I think they're about to capitulate very soon, and it doesn't surprise me. Once they got Mourinho in, I knew it was the end for them. I really did.
Yeah.
Adrian saying Andros Townsend highlighted the advice the players are getting from the PFA and their agents. Adrian, what did he say? What did Andros Townsend say? I'm not sure if I caught that. So if you can, send that to me in the chat. So guys, look, we're going to have a look at rating the Arsenal players so far this season. And I think that would be, look, Tom's got a big smile on his face now because this is where we get down to the real nitty gritty. Because, guys, they've played quite a few games and we know that, 28, 29 games. And we've had a good look, really, at what the guys have been able to do, especially under Arteta. A lot of them have had good playing time under Arteta. So I'm going to go around, and you guys also in the chat as well. I want to know what you would grade the players out of 10 for this season as a whole. We can go under Emery as well. We're judging them for the whole season, not just what they've done under Emery or what they have done under Arteta. So listen, let's start with Leno, Bert Leno. What would you grade him as a whole for this season? And let's remember, there's some high points and there's some low points. There's a reason why this team had only won 2 games in its last 17, which resulted in Emery getting sacked. Some of these players switched off and some of them didn't. And that was really disturbing to see. But it was great what Arteta was been able to come in and do. So let's go around to the board and see where we are on Bert Leno. Tom, do you want to go first on this one? I think Ebony, we've caught her in the kitchen making a cuppa.
Yeah. Just before we start, nobody's getting above an 8. But Bert Leno is one of those players that is getting an 8.
Okay, good.
We've drawn 13 league games this season, I think.
Yeah,
and I think I could safely say 7 or 8 of those would be losses without him.
Yeah.
And a few of the wins would be draws because he's made mistakes. He made the mistake hanging onto the ball too long and playing out from the back against Olympiacos, which ultimately cost us. But there were a lot of phases of play after he gave away the ball that we could have cut out. Anyway,
yeah,
he has made mistakes at times, but the number of shots that he's been facing, it's actually a miracle that we're in the top half of the table.
Yeah.
So I think I think in about December time he had made more saves than any other Premier League keeper. That's probably not the case anymore because we have been conceding a lot less shots since Arteta sorted out the defence and we're playing better and the defence is better protected. But Leno gets an 8 for me. I think he's a great keeper. He's not perfect, but he's young still for a keeper, and he's getting better and better and better. And if you put the right system in front of him, I think he's a keeper. The one position on the pitch that I don't think we need to strengthen is the goalkeeper.
Yeah, because he's got a way to improve there. He's still 25. He's still got a very high ceiling. 18's given him a 6. Adrian, Kez, let's hear what you guys in the chat are going to... Mancini, let's hear what you guys are going to give Leno. Marks out of 10 so far this season. Ebony, what do you think of Leno this season?
I think, for the most part, I've been critical. If anyone's been critical of Leno, it's me. And that's because his decision making has been a bit skewed with. I'd give him a 7. I just think that he needs to improve on his outward, his back passing. I think he needs to improve on his decision making. But he has the potential to be a great goalkeeper. And yes, he's 25 years old. He's he hasn't hit his prime yet. But with regards to his decision making, I still think at times it's poor. I think with regards to his playing from the back, that's what I was meant to say.
That's atrocious.
Sometimes that's a bit poor as well, if I'm honest. But he's got time to improve. So I'd give him a 7 on that. He's not been too bad, but there have been moments in the season so far where it's been a bit, what are you doing? There's been too many hairy moments in his game, which is why I'm going to give him a 7.
Yeah, for me, I have to go with a 7 as well. His decisiveness between the sticks has been very, very good. His shot stopping and saves. He's been a baller between the sticks this season. They would, as Tom alluded to, the amount of games that he saved us in. It was also the games that we were drawing that have been turned into wins because of him as well. Mm-hmm. Some of the games he's been able to hold out. So he's done really well, but at the same time, he's had a few stinkers. And for me, he's been good. He's been about what I expected him to be, because I always warned everybody he was the most mistake-prone goalkeeper in Germany. Lo and behold, he's been the most mistake-prone goalkeeper in England. So there isn't anything that's happened that we didn't know was going to happen. We knew that this was a part of the baggage. And where we can grow from that is if we can continue to develop him as a goalkeeper and grow and have him cut down those mistakes, he'll develop into a proper world-class goalkeeper. And it will benefit us and it will benefit Germany. And I think he's on track to do that now. And that's what's important about his development. So I do have to agree. I'll give him a 7 as well, maybe a 7.5. Give him a 7.5. Emilio Martinez, backup goalkeeper. Tom, what would you give him?
Started off very well in the Europa League. In the group stage, he had some blinders. He was brilliant. I think he kept clean sheets in the first 3 or 4 games there. We went away to Frankfurt. We won 3-0, and Frankfurt aren't a bad side. He was brilliant. Bit more shaky in recent months when he's played in the cup games. I think it's tough for a keeper to not play in the league games and just to come in for cup games. You know, you're not playing every week. You're rusty. Suddenly you're thrust in. You've got a different team in front of you. You've got 4 defenders that don't often play together in front of you, particularly in the Carabao Cup. You know, I'll give him a 6.5. Can we do 0.5s?
Yeah. We can do them. I do them all the time.
I think 6 is harsh, but 7's too kind. So 6.5. He looks like a decent backup goalkeeper. You know, that's what he looks like. So
yeah.
When I see his name on the team sheet in Europe or in the cup competitions, I don't think, shit. You know, I don't think we're screwed.
Yeah.
I think, okay, that's fine. You know, that's fine. Whereas actually last season with Czech, I kind of did get scared.
I thought there was times when he should have replaced Czech in the first team, because I thought that in the Europa Cup last season, I thought Martinez was fantastic. I thought he was brilliant at times, and he just hasn't been that kind of player this year. Sorry, Ebony, I might as well go because I'm talking about him now. I just thought he's one of them players that just dropped off, and there hasn't really been much pressure on Leno. Because of that, you'd like to see your backup put pressure on your starter. And I don't think we saw that this season. And obviously, Arteta's taken the mindset of, I'm going to play just like Guardiola, Mourinho, and all the and to an extent, Klopp sometimes, where you don't play your backups in cup games that you really need to win. We've seen Klopp do it in the Carabao Cup, but in the FA Cup, Klopp ain't playing that. He's playing the first team players. So it's a shame because Martinez isn't going to get that much opportunity under Arteta. So it would have been really nice to see him step up in that reign. By the way, Kez gave Leno a 6.5 out of 10. 18's given Martinez a 4. Wow, okay. I'm giving Martinez a 5. Yeah, it's a bit harsh. I'm giving him a 5. He hasn't been as good as he was last year. Kez is given Martinez a 6. So he's gone, Martinez started well, had a dodgy period, came back okay, you say a 6. Yeah, doesn't get a lot of games, and he won't get a lot of games as well moving forward, because we know how Arteta wants to run this thing now. Ebony, Martinez.
I'd give him a 6. I mean, you know, when he has played well in the early stages of the Europa League games, he's been excellent. The fact that he's not getting a run out in the Premier League at all, you know, it does render him rusty. Also, he was actually dropped from the Europa League games as well, for whatever reason, and that hasn't proved very well. Yeah, it hasn't proved to come across very well. You know, there have been times when I've criticised Leno and said that Martinez should step in, because I think Martinez's decision making is better than Leno's. It's just that Leno has had more game time. But for the fact that he's not featured very much, and he's been dropped, and I think he makes a very decent number 2, and and because he hasn't played that much, I will give him a 6, but it would have been a lot higher had he continued to progress in the Europa games, because he wasn't doing too badly at all. He actually saved our skin quite a bit in the Europa League, in the Europa game. So I don't know why he was dropped. Maybe because he Arteta wanted Leno to step
develop
up as the games progressed on to like further. Which I personally don't think it was a good idea. I would have actually stuck with Martinez, but because he hasn't played that much, because he was dropped so early, I'm giving him 6.
Yeah, and one can say as well that, remember, Arteta knew the Arsenal setup before he got here. He was a part of it 3 years ago, in the space that he was at Manchester City. He was a part of that group. So Arteta knows about the players at Arsenal. He knows about the players who went out on loan. He knows about the youth system. And he had his eye on Arsenal long before. Remember, when Wenger left, Arteta did do the interview. He's done his homework. He has enough footage, data, and details about every single player in the team. He knows who he wants to keep here this summer, and he knows who he needs to let go. And I would be interested to see where Martinez fits into all of that. So for me, just want to say good evening, Alex, in the chat. Alex from Cannon Fodder TV. And if you guys haven't checked out that channel, please check it out. He does live podcasts as well, like myself and Sonny, and very entertaining channel. A lot of good banter on there as well. Kirk is saying Kirk's at work and he's got a sign off soon. So he's giving his look at that. Tom, you said you're not giving anybody over an 8. Yeah. I don't know, Tom, I don't know where you're gonna be with Saka and Martini if you're even Aubameyang.
Do you know, I was just thinking about Saka like literally about 2 seconds ago, and I was thinking, if I'm giving Leno an 8, I can't give Saka.
Mad. Anyway, Kirk, thanks for joining us, mate. I hope you've enjoyed the first hour of the show, and hopefully you'll be able to catch us when you get back home. If we're still on air, we'll probably be on air for another 45 minutes as we run through the players. But also, Adrian is saying basically they've been advised to not take a pay cut again until the full picture of the club accounts. Okay, so that's on the conversation that we had previously before. Thanks for clearing that up, Adrian. Much appreciated. And so for me, I'm going to be given, I think I gave my Martinez vote at 5, didn't I? But Martin, we're talking about Martinelli now. The scores are starting to come in. So listen, Hector Bellerin, yeah? Tom, Hector Bellerin, what's your grades on Bellerin so far this season? Guys in the chat, what would you grade Bellerin for so far this season? Remember, he's been injured for quite a lot of it. But what would you give his marks?
Well, Bellerin's like 2 different players. You got Bellerin under Emery, and you got Bellerin under Arteta. And they're different players. I think he was showing good form. I loved his goal at Chelsea. He looks, he's one of the senior players in the team now. When you think about how long he's been here, yeah, he's not lived up to the right back that he thought we thought he was going to be when the whispers about Barcelona, him going to Barcelona, that kind of thing. I'll give Bellerin a 6. He's not performing to his full potential. He's not performing to his full potential. However, he is improving, and I prefer having him at right back than Maitland-Niles easily. So I'll give Bellerin a 6.
Okay, so we've got 18 who's given him a 3. Arsenal Vlogs, big shout out to Arsenal Vlogs. How you doing, mate? Good to see you back on YouTube again, mate. I knew you weren't going to be gone too long from us, so it's good to see you around. Again, another channel for you guys to check out. There's some really good channels around, guys. And again, as I said, it's just gravy and fun for the fan base to understand that there's a lot of depth and a lot of choice for us to go into now. So big shout out to Cannon Fodder TV and Arsenal Vlogs. He's gone for a 4 for Bellerin, and Alex has gone for a 2. Yeah, Alex has gone for a 2. That's real, Alex. That's some real right there. Kez has gone for a 5. Let's see any more marks coming in for Bellerin. Ebony, what would you give Bellerin? Is Ebony still? I think we've lost Ebony for a bit. Okay, well, while she comes back, I'll go on Bellerin. Again, didn't feature too much at the beginning of the season because he was coming back from that injury. I think that under Arteta, he's looked out of sorts completely. And I talked a lot. I spoke to Graham about this from AFTV, as you guys knew last week. And I pointed out to Graham as well, the injuries that he's had, the groin, meant that he didn't really come over the halfway line and support Pepe in the way he should have. And that's why Pepe struggled a bit, because he's lacked that support. Arteta's seen that and helped him with Ozil. But at the same time, Bellerin was injured. He shouldn't have been on the field. He shouldn't have been playing. The option was there to have Maitland-Niles feature at right back, and we didn't do it. And we know that Guendouzi and Maitland-Niles have both been late to practice, so they are not in the good books at the moment of Arteta. They're in the doghouse. We don't know how that's going to play out. We know Cedric Soares is now fit, now healthy. So will we see that play a part towards the end of the season? I hope so. But for me, he's a very good player. For me, I'm going to have to go with a 4 for Bellerin. Adrian has gone for a 6 for Bellerin. And also he went for a 6 for Martinez as well. Alex is saying he suffered a serious injury. And this was one thing, pace, he's lost it. Yeah, he's just lost the pace. And that's why he's not going above the halfway line, because he's just not committing himself to failure to backtrack. He's just not doing that. So I don't know where he's going to go there. Ebony, you're on another channel with us, Ebony. Let's see if we can get you back. Let's see if we can get Ebony back.
Yeah, is that better?
That's better, but I'm echoing.
Right, let me go somewhere else.
Okay.
Right, Bellerin. As you just said, as you alluded to, after that injury that he's had, and it was a horrific one, it was the ACL, and that's never an easy injury to come back from. I can see even like watching the games live at the Emirates, I see where he's not committed to any. I see where he's not committed. He's not been committed to any challenges. Therefore,
you're breaking up quite a bit.
And you can understand.
You're breaking up quite a bit, Ebony.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I think I'm still echoing.
Can you hear me now? Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you. I think I'm still echoing. Yeah, pardon Ebony, guys. She's just having a bit of audio problems there. But listen, let's move on to Maitland-Niles. Wow, Maitland-Niles. Oh, wow. What are we going to do here? Tom, you go with Maitland-Niles. Guys, in the chat, let's hear your opinion on Maitland-Niles and see where your hearts and minds are for this very talented, I don't want to be a right-back Arsenal player at the moment. Tom.
He's had some good games. He's had more bad games than good games.
Oh, wow. I've got Tom echoing now. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, hold on a second. Let's have a look. Why are we getting echoes at the moment?
Why are we getting echoes at the moment?
Hold on. Right, Tom. Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, Maitland-Niles, I think he wants to be a centre midfielder. He is a centre midfielder by trade, but he's not better than Guendouzi, Xhaka, Ceballos, Ozil, whoever we've got in the middle. He's not. He doesn't feature in our best pair, basically. I think he improved when Arteta came and we play the kind of inverted fullback where Saka was pushing forwards. You had Xhaka filling at left back, and then the right back comes into defensive midfield, because that kind of suited him, because then he was actually sitting in defensive midfield quite a lot of the time. I'll give him a 4.
Wow. Okay.
He's had some good games. I remember his assist against Newcastle in the very first game. That was brilliant. He's had a couple more where he's played well, but 3 or 4 good games out of however many he's played is not good enough for me. And people will say, "Oh, but he's playing out of position and stuff." He's a young guy that's got a chance to play in first team for a top 6 club, and he's played right back for the best part of 2 years now, and he hasn't taken that opportunity for me.
Yeah.
You look at Saka's what, 17, 18? He's not a left back, but he just took to it because he belongs in our lineup, whereas I don't think Maitland-Niles does. I'd be quite happy for us to sell him at this point. I don't think he's an Arsenal level player if we want to progress as a club.
Yeah, I think and look, before he stopped featuring of late, he was playing fantastic. He didn't have a bad game under Arteta. Yeah, I in all of the player ratings that I gave him, he got a 7.5. He was solid across the board. There was obviously some issues with him being late, which is why he hasn't featured. But Cedric Soares being brought in tells you all you need to know about what Arteta thinks about his long-term prospects. And I think you're right. I think he will be sold on. In my opinion, I think he was doing everything right. He's second in the team in dribbles. He doesn't get a lot of respect for that, but behind Pepe's averages 3.3 dribbles per game, and Maitland-Niles 1.9, and then the nearest person underneath that has got about 1.3. So Maitland-Niles is a long way. He can run with the ball, he can dribble with the ball, which is strange when you consider. I actually would like to know what the stats is on Saka. Because obviously Saka wasn't doing that much when he was in, and then he's just storm-ridden this season with Arteta. But I think I would give Maitland-Niles a 6. I think he's done quite well. 18 has given Maitland-Niles a 7, and Mancini's given him a 3 because of his attitude. Well, you know what? Yeah, attitudes go a long way. And it's kind of killed all the good work he's done because now he's on the bench and he ain't doing nothing. It's all those performances are worth what? They weren't worth anything because right now it looks like Cedric Soares is going to be the person who's going to play. Ebony, what would you give Maitland-Niles?
Well, the fact that he's done quite well at right back. For that, I'd give him a 7. I mean, there have been times when he's been caught short, caught napping, where he's been taught a lesson, and that's due to lack of concentration. But then if you're being played out of position because it is required of you, you just got to take it on the chin and say, you know what? Yes, my normal position is midfield, but I've been asked to cover a position while a player is out injured. So he should have actually taken the ball by the horns and thought, you know what, let me just make this right back position my own for now. And then, and if I'm required to play in the middle of the park, then I can do that because I can just switch back. But right now, let me be in a position that is required of me right now. He's done that. And then when he did actually play in midfield, he was dreadful.
Yeah.
So, but the fact that he's actually he's done quite well for the most part in a position that's not his own, I'd give him a 7.
It's a good shout.
He's a good footballer. You can tell his touch. He's good. I think his concentration sometimes goes out the window. He loses his head a bit. He's the kind of player, if he makes a mistake, the game is kind of done for him.
Okay, moving on, Socrates. Tom, I'll let you go first on Socrates. Guys, in the chat, let us know what your marks out of 10 on Socrates are. Again, very up and down player, but I think we all know where this is going because he doesn't really feature in the team anymore. But Tom, Socrates.
4. I'm done with him. I think he's crap now. he's I would, everybody being fit, he's probably my 4th choice centre back.
What, 4th?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think he'd be my 6th.
I liked him at Dortmund, and I quite liked him when he first came. but he spends too much time on the floor. He's erratic. He dives in too much. He's not great in the air. He scored a decent goal for us this year, I think, didn't he? Actually, was it the one that was disallowed at Palace, which should have been allowed?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I kind of want to like him, but I think he's been poor this season. He was poor under Emery, and then more recently he's been poor. So for me, he gets a 4.
Okay, so I'm going with a 3 at the moment. And for me, he's really clumsy, frequently conceding free kicks, and he just doesn't look assured on the ball. And the biggest thing for me, which is why he's not playing, is because Luis and Pablo Mari play the ball so well out the back. And it's just one of the biggest weaknesses with Socrates. For the life of him, he cannot play. He's like a deer in the headlights. And you just cannot have somebody like that who has the inability to move the ball on the floor in the way that he does. And look, I liked the guy last season, and he's just turned 30. For me, he's not the same player. And I'm after gonna go with a 3 for that one. I know it might sound a bit harsh. 18 has also gone with a 3. We haven't had any much of the marks coming in from you guys yet. Ebony, what would you give Socrates this season? I think he's done. I think he'll be gone in the summer. Are you all right, Ebony? You still with us? I think she said she can't hear. Ebony, can you hear us? Yeah, I think she might be. Let me just check your mic. Yeah, you look like you're okay, but can you hear us, Ebony? No, she can't. Okay, she's having problems. All right, so we're going to come back to her on Socrates. So, guys in the chat, we're going to talk about Callum Chambers now. Callum Chambers, what would you give Callum Chambers this season? One of our most surprising, and actually I'm not that surprised because I've always rated him as centre-back, not so much right-back, but it got to the stage that he was even playing well at right-back as well as centre-back. We were having our first clean sheets under him, and for me, he just seemed like someone I wanted to play for the future, to hold down a spot there with Saliba, and it might happen, it may well happen, we really don't know because of the horrible injury. Tom, what would you think of Callum Chambers this season?
Until his injury, he was our best defender. We weren't very good at defending until he got injured, and we've improved since he's been injured. But he gets a 6.5. I can't remember what match it was, but he got a hat trick of assists in one match.
Yeah,
you know, from right back. He's a good reliable player. I don't feel worried when Chambers is on the pitch. He always seems to turn up. He's decent on the ball. He's a little bit slow of pace, but he seems to have quite good positional awareness. And you know, he filled in at right back. He can fill in at DM. He's a good versatile squad player. He's kind of like, for me, he reminds me of a James Milner type player. You know, that kind of player is always.
Ebony, echo. All right, yeah, go on.
That can fit in 3 or 4 positions. So yeah, 6.5.
Right, so 6.5. So I'm with Chambers again. No doubt about he's been the best centre back this season, the most consistent. Filled in relatively well at right back, as I said, when asked to do so. A position that he's never really looked comfortable in. I believe those 3 assists, it might have been Southampton. And that was from the right back position as well. So it wasn't a centre back. So it just goes to show how good he's been this season. And since Arteta, before Arteta arrived, he was one of the players that I said that was giving all, regardless of the result, regardless of the team not playing well. I put it down to, I think it was him and Torreira were the 2 players that I said that were just going lights out. And regardless of whether the team, we know they weren't putting enough effort in, they weren't running, they weren't trying hard enough. And I think him and Torreira were the 2 guys that I would hold accountable as being at the top of their game. It's a shame both players are injured, isn't it? But I think I would have to give him a 7. I think I'd give Callum Chambers a 7. 18's given him an 8. Ebony, you're back with us now. Callum Chambers.
When he's played, he's been brilliant. His awareness is on point. considering that he was Fulham's best player the season before last, actually goes to show what a good player he actually is. I think you are right. He's been our best centre back, and he was our best centre back before he got injured, and we miss him. We miss him alongside Rob Holding. Although Rob Holding is kind of back, but since he's actually been injured, we haven't really been the same at the back as far as I'm concerned. I think we've been pretty lackadaisical at times, and we've missed his awareness. We've missed his interceptions. I'd personally give him an 8 because I think he's that good.
That's a good shout. I'm not going to argue with that at all. That's a good shout. David Luiz, Tom, what would you give David Luiz? And I like me some David Luiz, man.
Yeah, he's a Marmite player, isn't he? Nobody thinks Luiz is okay. You either love him or hate him. Personally,
agreed.
So he gets a 7 for me. I know he's got a mistake in him. We all know that he's got a moment of madness in him, but I think what he brings to the team far outweighs his negatives. When you look at some of the passes he can ping, when you look at some of the brilliant defending he does, I think against Man United on New Year's Day, he was fantastic. There have been games where he's just stood out as fantastic. Somebody's just given him a 1. I think that's ridiculous.
Alex is just killing him.
Wow,
we've gone right to the bottom of the spectrum and right to the top of the spectrum. Oh my God!
I give him a 7. I think we need Luiz. His experience. He's won everything. Let's not forget that. He's won the English League, the French League. He's won Europa Leagues. Has he got a Champions League? I think he does with Chelsea.
He's got everything, mate. He's got World Cup. He's got everything.
He's got everything, and he's still fast. He's got He's great on the ball. He's a good character around the dressing room. I watch all their Instagrams and stuff. He's always having a laugh and a joke. He seems like a great guy.
Yeah, what's going on, Tony? How you doing, man?
How you doing, fella? How you doing? Nice to see you guys.
Hey, what's happening?
It's good stuff. Tony, at the moment, what we're doing is we're grading the players for the season so far. And we're just about ending on the defense. We've got about 3 or 4 defenders left to go. So you haven't missed out on that much. But I'll get your opinion on the others. Yeah, I'll get you to do a quick one.
With the rest of the team.
Yep. Tom, have you finished on David Luiz? What did you give him?
Yeah, I gave him a 7.
7. Okay, good. So Tony, we've first of all, let's just run through a few of them. What would you give Leno?
6.
6. God, what did we do? Tom, could you remember who we done? It's leaving me now. Maitland-Niles.
So we got.
I'd give Maitland-Niles a 5.
Bellerin.
6.5.
6.5. That's high. Compared to what everyone else gave, we went with who else was there? Socrates.
5.
Mm-hmm. You can stand here.
Again, Socrates just got bashed. He got belted. And obviously, we've just done. Who have we just done? David Luiz.
6.5.
Yeah, Tom went with a 7. I've gone with a 7 as well. Before I hand over to you, Ebony, he was.
Did you ask about Chambers? Did you do Chambers? Sorry, I missed.
Oh, Chambers. No, we forgot Chambers. Tony Chambers, Callum Chambers.
Gosh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, we got some 7s and 8s. I think we got 8. Yeah, the highest was an 8 for Chambers.
Didn't do a lot wrong. 2 clean sheets, was it not?
Yeah, and on my table, I keep a record of the man of the matches. He got 4 man of the matches this season as well. 4.
So he's got to be up there, hasn't he? He's got to be a 7 or an 8. I'm going to go split the difference, 7.5.
It's a good shout. With David Luiz, I've gone for the fact that he just looked like an awful player at the beginning of the season. He was trying to overcompensate for what other people were doing. He was playing undisciplined. He was rash. He was giving away penalties. He did everything that you could do wrong. He did. He did wrong. And under Arteta, he looked like a complete different player. He looked like a Champions League winner, World Cup winner. He's been at the point of all of our successes and clean sheets. Remember, 5 clean sheets in the last 9 games, 3 clean sheets in the last 4 games. The game where Pablo Mari started and you saw Luis shouting instructions and telling him where to position and everything. Luis has just been brilliant. But unfortunately, this isn't about what you've done in the last 10 games. It's about what you've done in the whole season. So I'm going to have to give Luis a 6. I would have loved to give him a 7.5, 8. But I'm going to have to give him 6 just based on balance because he wasn't very good at the beginning of the season. Ebony, what would you give David Luiz?
I'd give him a 6.5. I mean, yes, you are right. You know, he has not been the best player. He wasn't very good at the beginning of the season under Emery. I thought he was absolutely dreadful. Sideshow Bob, as we call him. You know, there were times when he was rash. He was too random. He'd make these passes that were like, you know, what are you doing? But then under Arteta, he's actually learned how to defend again. He actually looks like a completely different player. And that's what you need sometimes. You need that manager that can actually get the best out of you. And I don't think that, you know, he was gotten the best out of under Emery. But now, you know, he's looking like the player that, you know, that was at Chelsea. I don't think he's won a World Cup though, but he's won everything else. I'd give him a 6 based on the fact that, you know, he was awful in the beginning, but then under Arteta, he's actually come back to his normal self. But yes, he can ping the ball from the defense to even to the front player, or even sometimes to the goalkeeper. He does have a ping in him, but there are times even under Arteta he's made a few mistakes. And he's just lost his awareness. So 6.5.
Okay, so let me get that. So listen, guys, if you thought that David Luiz divided opinion, yeah, Mustafi, the serial offender. Yeah, look at the smile on your faces. You can't wait to get going with Mustafi. I'm going to give this one to Tony first because Tony was a bit late to the party. Ashley, no, you know what, Tony? I'll let you simmer on it. Let's go with Tom first. Let's go with Tom. Tom, Mustafi, the serial offender.
Well, I'm gonna shock everyone right now because I'm basing Mustafi's rating on this season. Okay, because that's what this is, right? Yeah. Two players or 3 players in our squad in particular. There are a few, but you know, the 3 players in our squad that are kind of like the sort of, you know, the villains, if you like. Mustafi, Ozil, and Xhaka. Those are the 3 that everybody loves to hate. But when you look at Mustafi's rating this season, I saw him get booed onto the pitch at the Emirates Cup. I was at the Emirates Cup and he got booed onto the pitch, which I never agree with. We thought he was going to leave. He then didn't leave. He didn't play in the Premier League at all for the first few months. We kept a lot of clean sheets in the Europa League when he did play. And then actually, he's played very well in the league since he's come into the team, since we've had injuries. I think he made one mistake against Chelsea, which, you know, led to Luiz getting sent off. But then in the second half against Chelsea with 10 men, he was unbelievable and kind of made up for that. And we came away with the draw at Stamford Bridge. I'm going to give him a 7.5. I think he's been great this season.
Hey, so listen, what's up, man? That's Tony's boy there. Everybody in the chat say hello to Tony's kid. Nice one. A proper junior gooner right there. Nice one, nice one. So we've got some scores coming in for Mustafi. Alex has gone with a 6. Kez has been missing for about 20 minutes. Maybe he was trying to get the dinner sorted out. Kez has gone first. He's gone with Arteta as well. 6 for Socrates, 8 for Chambers, 7. Yes, a good shout for Luiz. And we've gone with Mustafi. We've gone with a 6 for 18. Kez has gone with a 7.5 for Mustafi as well. Wow. All right. I'll let Tony think about this one for a bit. I'm gonna
ready.
go. Oh, you're ready. Okay, Tony, go on then, Mustafi.
Okay, so as you said previously, you know, you got to go on the whole season and not on what you just done recently. Arteta has got him playing a tune, and thank God for that. But I'm gonna have to, you know, bear in mind what he's done at the start of the season, where I thought it was an absolute liability. So unfortunately, he's getting a 5 from me.
Yeah, I've got to play it both ways because, as you know, I'm a statistician and I love statistics. And actually, Tom does his research on statistics as well. And me and Tom have been bantering over the last 12 months about Mustafi because what frustrates me and Tom the most, and a lot of people on Goon Squad are like that as well. So big shout out to Goon Squad. T with a Russ, are you there? I've been waiting for you for the last hour. You ain't even shown up yet. Jay as well. What's going on, Jay? The one thing that's frustrated me is if you look at our clearances, headers, and Jules won, he has been leading the team actually since the day he signed for Arsenal. There is nobody who clears more headed crosses into the box than Mustafi. He's so good at those things. It's just the bonehead mistakes that you can't, and those mistakes will cost you time and time again. We've seen him do it week in, week out. And look, we've got Tony's little boy there with a little comment going in. Do you like Mustafi?
Yeah.
Do you like Mustafi? You do? Okay, so that's thumbs up.
There you go then.
What did you say?
He used to play for a different team and then he came back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's back now, but we don't know whether he's going to fit into anyone's plans. But listen, he's been singing since Arteta has used him. I don't think he's going to be the first choice at the moment. I think he's going to go with Luiz and Mari. I definitely think so because you've got experience, you've got stability, you've got discipline, and most importantly, Mari and Luiz play the ball out the back better than everybody. Mustafi also is adept at playing the ball out of the back. Let's not get it twisted. Mustafi can split a defense and a midfield. He's got that in his game.
Mustafi's got a good pass in his locker, but he's also got a shocking pass in his locker.
He will do that.
But I prefer him to Socrates this season easily.
I think the thing that confused me is, by the way, so I give Mustafi a 6.5. I think I'm going to go with Tony. The thing that's confused me is when we had the ability to play, and I think was this Olympiacos, when we put Socrates in at right back, I was like, dude, how comes you haven't put? What is going on? What's going on with that? Why haven't you gone the other way? It was very confusing to me why he did that. I just didn't know. I mean, he's got so much better options. But anyway, I've gone 6.5 for the serial offender, Ebony Mustafi.
Okay, I'm gonna go for a 6. As everybody has alluded to, you know, when he makes a mistake to the point where you want to jump on a pitch or jump into the TV and cuss him out. And I've been one of Mustafi's biggest critics. I've actually called for him to leave the club because the guy can't defend for love nor money. But again, you know, he's one of these players that's actually improved for me under Arteta. You know, he's now looking like almost like the World Cup winner that Wenger signed about nearly 4 years ago now. But yes, you know, there are times still when he will switch off, make a mistake. He's not the greatest of tacklers, to be fair, but aerially, he's actually quite good. And yes, he can split. The line. So, but if it wasn't for his mistakes, I'd actually score him higher. And has he been better than Socrates this season? Yes, he has. And by the way, my score for Socrates is a 2. But for Mustafi, I'm going to give him a 6.5. Only because he's made too many mistakes this season alone. So yeah, 6.5.
Okay, so I've got to get this done. Here we go. Right. So listen, let's move on to Rob Holding. We're going to try and fly through Holding and Mari, actually, because they haven't played much. In fact, shall we do Holding, Mari, and Turney at the same time, or shall we give them the respect of the? Because they haven't really played much football. So let's do Holding, Mari, and Turney at the same time to speed that part up, and then we can move on to the midfield. Tom, Rob Holding, Mari, and Turney. The guys in the chat as well. Let's hear what your thoughts are on those three.
2 for Holding. He's been crap. He looks weak. You know, he's easy to bully. Imagine a player like Drogba. What Drogba used to do to Senderos, what he would do to Rob Holding right now is just ridiculous. He's not looked like the slick player that we hoped he was. He's not looked like the leader that we hoped he was. So he gets a 2 for me. Hopefully he can improve once he gets a lot of games under his belt, but I'm not too confident. I believed in him a lot, but that's gone a lot now. Tierney gets a 5. I mean, he's clearly a good player. He gets up and down that wing. I remember a couple of games that I've been at the Emirates. I'm like, Jesus, he covers some ground, you know, and he's got the finished product. There was one cross that he put in for Martinelli header in the Europa League, and I was like, this kid is Andrew Robertson part 2, you know, but he hasn't played enough. He gets a 5, and then Mari's only played once, and that was a clean sheet. So, you know, give him a 10, I guess.
Well, he did slip. Remember, he made that mistake. He slipped when he judged the ball wrong, but he played solid for that whole game.
I mean, he hadn't played football about 2 months, I don't think, had he?
Yeah.
Because the Brazil season was on a break. So to come in, keep a clean sheet. He looked good in the second half. He was spraying passes around. He looked solid. He looked comfortable. You know, if you're just rating him on one game, he gets 7.
So just to say, Jalse, welcome to the forum. I know you've just joined. What we're doing is we're doing a marks out of 10 for the players for this season so far. So we're judging them really over the whole season, which is this season. So we thought I was going to do this a couple of weeks ago, but I thought it would be better to do it now because the content is just so dry at the moment with Arsenal. And I'm still hearing a lot of these agents saying none of these transfer stuff that you're hearing is true. I talked to another 3 over the last week, and they're all saying the same thing. There's no agent movement, nothing going on right now. So a lot of what we see in the papers is just not really true. But overall, guys, Tony, are you going to go with Holding, Mari, and Turney? Let's hear your 3.
Sure. So Holding, I'm pretty much in agreement with Tom on that one. He's looked pretty shoddy, weak. On occasions that he has been in the team. I give him slightly higher, I give him a 3, but you know, certainly nothing more than that. Kieran Tierney, I think he's showing some promise. I think, you know, he could be a long stander, but you know, the problem is, you know, this kid Saka has just looked so good at left back, which he's not even a natural left back. So he's got some big boots to fill. But it's salivating to think, you know, the potential of Saka and Tierney both coming down the left wing. So I'm going to give Tierney a 5 at this stage because I think there's still a lot to be seen. But, you know, I'm happy with what I've seen so far. Mari, presence, blood. I just love this guy. I really do. He made one error, but, you know, he looks firm. He looks firm, you know. His positioning is great, you know. And for that, I'm going to give him a 7.
And the thing about Mari is that's only one game. This guy at 6'4" gets around the field quickly, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got to admire his range.
Very good against Liverpool in the World Club Cup. Very good.
He had Sane. Mane. He had Mane in his pocket that game. I've watched that game twice because we didn't really have much footage on him, and he's just solid in his positioning. Look, he's been voted South American Defensive Player of the Year, and that's the reason why. We got any scores coming in here? Yes, Alex has gone for a 5 with Holding. Jalse has gone for a 2 or 3 with Holding. 18 has gone for 3 with Holding, 6 Mari, 4 for Kieran Tierney. Jalse has gone for a 5 with Kieran Tierney. Ebony,
Okay, Holding, it's unfair to actually even score him because he's not really been playing that much at all, if at all, and he's been injured as well. So I think it's a bit unfair to score him lowly. So I'm gonna not score him because he's hardly featured. I mean, if I am gonna score him, then probably like a 3, but that's purely because he's not been playing at all and he's been injured. Tierney, the boy's got a good cross in him. When I have seen him play, I've been impressed what he's done down the flank. So I'm going to give him a 6. Sorry, on the basis of one game that we've seen him, I need to see more of him to be impressed. So on the basis of that one game, I'm going to give him a 5. And that's simply because I've only seen him play one game. I need to see more of him before I give like a real rating.
So with Rob Holding, as you guys all know, Rob Holding's my boy. I've been talking him up ever since we bought him from Bolton, and he was one of our best centre backs as Wenger was closing out his management career at Arsenal. And it's been frustrating to see him. It seems like he had a little bit of what Bellerin had. Bellerin came back and had the groin injury and was playing with that. It seems like Holding just hasn't been back at the races since he's been back in the team. He's been poor. He's given the ball away constantly, completely unlike the player that we know. So he's clearly not back to his best. And yeah, about a 3 or a 4 he deserves. He just hasn't been very good at the moment, and he needs to work on his recovery. For me, why are you playing a player like that who is clearly not recovered from his injury at the moment? So that's Rob Holding. Mari, again, love what he did. I'm going to give him a 6.5 for that game, which is what I gave him actually in the player rating. So I have to stay true to that. I think he'll get better and better and better and better. And I think, look, as good looking as the guy looks, he's got a nasty streak in him as well. So I think we're going to see a lot more from Pablo Mari, believe me. I can't wait to hear about what's happening with the contract negotiations with him as well, with that loan deal. Kieran Tierney, though, I like what I've seen in spurts from him, but I still think at the same time, I think his best game was against Man United when he was up against James on the wing. I thought that was a real test for him. There was times that James, with his pace, just got by him, and we could see the recovery ability and the gap ability in Kieran Tierney's game. This guy has won a lot with Celtic. He's been playing in the Champions League. Some people might say, yeah, it's Scotland is Scotland. This guy's played up against some real big teams like Barcelona, etc. He knows what it's like on the big stage. He'll get better and better, but at the moment, for me, I think I give him a 5. I think we haven't seen the best of him yet, so it's clear that the best is yet to come on him. So let's go with Klasnach. I should have actually put Klasnach in that, but we can focus on Klasnach in a moment. Guys in the chat, what would you give Klasnach out of 10? Tom, said Klasnach.
5.5. He gets 10 for his preseason. Same
and he gets 10 for Ozil's bodyguard as well. He gets a 10.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Preseason, he gets a 10. 5.5. Kolasinac is Kolasinac. He's good going forwards. We actually, when Kolasinac plays at left back, pretty much everything comes through him. His physicality is great. He's always up for a scrap. He's always standing up to, but he is limited. He's a limited footballer. He runs in straight lines. He can't really change direction very quickly, and his final product is not always that great, and his defending is sometimes a bit iffy. So you get 5.5. I like him though. He's a bit of a kind of cult hero, I like him. I like him at the club. I like him as an option to come off the bench. I would put Tierney and Saka above him at left back at the moment, though.
Excellent. So listen, we've got where are we? Klasnach. Tony, what's your thoughts on Klasnach?
The tank. I love the tank. I think he's just an all-out, give it everything, heart on your sleeve kind of guy, kind of player.
Played well this season
in my team any given day of the week because he just gives as much as he can. He's not the greatest defender, but he's adequate. He's not, he's not a Saka in attack, but he's definitely a threat. He's definitely a threat. So he knows when to go forward. He knows when to do his defending. I'm going to give him a 5.5 like Tom, to be honest. I like the guy. I really like him.
Okay, so we've got Giles says no end product. He's given him a 4. Kez is giving him a 6.5 and has called him the tank. The Bosnian Hulk. It's funny. 18 has given him 6. In my opinion, I think he's done really well this season. I think, again, injuries. You know what made me laugh? When Kieran Tierney and everyone was going down with injuries and he had a chance to staple that position for himself and then he got hurt, I thought it was a real shame because most of his games I've given him a 7 this season. He's been that good. He's been solid, moving forward. And where we've criticized him in the past for not being as solid as a defender, he really worked on that, and he looked solid at the back defending as well. And it was a real shame that he got injured the way that he did. I think it was he gave us consistency on that left-hand side, and I don't know what Arteta's going to do simply because he has Saka, Tierney, and Martinez on the left. What are you going to do with Kolasinac? I really think he's going to be a victim of the numbers in the summer, and it would be a real shame because he gives so much to the team. Ebony, what would you give on Kolasinac?
Him a 5. I mean, there's been times when he has been absolutely poor. He is more of a winger than a wing back. He can't defend. He can run, but then the problem with him is that he runs up to a certain point and then he falters. And that's not good enough for me. When he was in the German league, we bought him for a reason, and we bought him on the basis of what he did in the German league because he was the tank. He was that frightening player that we've been yearning for years. But as a defender, he's poor. As a wing back, he's okay, but he can't even cross his arms. That's how poor on the ball he is. Sorry, but he only gets a 5.
Yeah, so I think for me, I have to give him, based on his solid play this season, I have to give him a 6. Giles has also said, would you keep him? It's a tough one. I wouldn't keep him if I'm Arteta, and that is solemnly based on the fact that you have taken over a team that you have to make your team. You can't make... The biggest problem with Unai Emery was he was never really allowed to buy his players. There was 21 players that came in for Unai Emery, and they were either Wenger's players or Sev Mislintat's players. Torreira, Guendouzi, all of those players, they weren't Emery's players. They were Sev Mislintat's players. And Emery didn't really get the players in that he wanted to get in. Yet he was with this task that he had to make it work. And I think with Arteta, you can't make him fail for the same reasons. You have to make Arteta give him the players that he wants in order for him to succeed. And that means getting rid of players like Kolasinac. Unfortunately, getting rid of players like Maitland-Niles, getting rid of players like Mustafi, Xhaka. You've got to give him the players he needs in order to facilitate the system he wants. And I say that because I think Kolasinac is a wonderful player, but I don't think he's that player positioning, discipline, and the holding the gaps for the rondo that you need in order to hunt the ball. He just isn't that type of player. So for me, I think that you sell him. Yeah, I think you sell him. So I would give Kolasinac a 6. Okay, so guys, we're gonna go with what everybody wanted now. This is the last defender, and it's Saka, 18-year-old super spud. Yeah, we're gonna go with Saka. So Tom, you've been waiting for this one. Guys in the chat as well, what would you give Saka marks out of 10?
How old is Saka again?
18. He just turned 18 in
Just turned 18.
No, it was October. He just turned 18 last October.
So he's 18. He's got to get a 9. You know, playing at left back, out of position. He's been our best player. I actually think he's played better at left back than he has at left wing. And part of the reason of that is that he's arriving from deep, which actually I think suits him quite well. When he plays left wing, he doesn't look quite as good. But he can defend as well. I mean, he might have a future at left back, but he's been our best player in the last 5 or 6 months easily. So he gets a 9.
He gets a 9. So we've gone with Kez has gone for an 8.5. Giles has gone for an 8. Let's go for the upper number on this one, shall we? Because he's a Ute. Yeah, he's a man Ute. 18. We've gone Mancini's gone Saka, no fear, but you haven't given me a grade out of 10, Mancini. 18 has gone for a 10. That's our first 10 of the day. That's our first 10.
10 is Messi, Ronaldo levels. He can't
go 10. He's got 10 assists. He's got 10. You know what? I wonder how much games he started. I probably need to have a look at that later on. He's got 10 assists.
Yeah.
Mancini's gone for a 9. Wow. Jas is saying through the youth academy, he's a natural to the position, maybe not preferred. That's Freddie Lundberg's fault. He actually started 6 games at left back in the youth team, but was more predominantly a winger. And Freddie's the one that coaxed this whole left back thing with Saka, and he's just running with it. And you've got to be at the point where if you're a young player and a manager's telling you to play in a certain position because he thinks that you'll do well there, you got to do it. Don't come with this Maitland-Niles rubbish. Ashley Cole. Yeah, exactly. You've got to do it, and if that's where you're going to earn your big contract, and that's where you're going to earn your future, then that's where you have to do it. Yeah, Tony, Saka,
the man-child, as I call him. The boy is just pure fire. I love him. And yeah, you know, end product upon end product upon end product, just continually providing great goals and assists. So with that being said, I'm gonna join Tom. What's yours? A 9?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna join that. I'm gonna go with that. 9 is for me.
Okay, so we've gone with 9 with Tom. We've gone with 9 with Tony, and it's great to see the kids in the chat here. We've got Tom's daughter. Hey, honey, how are you? You're live on YouTube. How you doing? And listen, we already seen you. We know what you think of Arsenal because you was already on one of my videos, which is uploaded. So you're looking wonderful, and I hope you and your dad are having a great time. Ebony.
I'm gonna buck the trend. I'm gonna buck the trend and give a 9.5. He's been absolutely amazing down that wing. He's just been. You can see why Bellerin's kind of like, you know, scared. Well, if he is scared, that is. But you know, Saka has actually been that player that you know, every other team has that star kid, and we haven't had that in a good while. So you know, for me, Saka's been, and you know, Saka's been that player that we've been crying out for. All right, that's not his position, but he's taken the ball by the horns. That's something that A&M or AMN hasn't done. And he's like, look, I'll play wherever the boss tells me to. And he's made that win his own, you know. And the fact that when he plays, you can see the fear in his opponents because they just don't know what to do with him. They can't stop him. He's unstoppable. I'm giving him a 9.5.
Yeah, in me and Tony Cox's terms, he's posterized so many right backs in this league that I can't even listen. He's embarrassed so many right backs. Forget the league in Europe, because remember he made his keep in the Europa. He's posterized so many right backs in Europe. It ain't even funny. And listen, guys are afraid to step to him in fear of how silly he would make them look. And it's not just that. This guy's just turned 18. He knows when to play, when to lay off. He knows when to make his runs. He's amazing on the overlap with Aubameyang. And I think part of the reason why we're talking about selling Aubameyang, because Aubameyang plays on that left. So if Aubameyang goes, who's going to replace him in the natural position? It's Saka. Saka is going to be the guy there who's going to replace him. What is Aubameyang's weakness? His creativity. 2 assists all season. Yeah? How many assists has Saka got? So, guys, we can get into this all day long about Aubameyang, but the future looks bright. If you've got Pepe on the right, Saka on the left, playing high up the field, providing over 20 to 30 assists to a striker like Martinelli or Nketiah, or if Lacazette still wants to hang around. Yeah. So I think we're in good stead, but I'm going to go with, just like Ebony, a 9.5 out of 10. And that's because I don't think I've given 10. Actually, I think I might have given a 10 in my player ratings. Yeah, I can be a bit naughty like that. I think somebody did get a 10. But listen, I think he definitely deserves a 9.5, and he's definitely going to be the player of the season. When the polls come down on the website and the fans have to vote, it's only going to go one way. He will be player of the season. We've got Jalsa saying, I think Tony would make a great backup option. I think his injury proneness needs to be managed. Maybe Saka can make it his own. I really don't think so. I think that Arteta is going to play Saka in that striker, that form where you have to play him up front. I think when Turney comes in, you have to put him at right back, because the threat and penetration of both Turney and Saka on the left is frightening. It really is. It's an absolutely frightening proposition. So I think that with that being said, you can move Aubameyang back to his anchor at the point position at centre forward, so you can not ask him to provide assists. You can just ask him to score goals, because that's what Aubameyang's good at. He's good at scoring goals. So I would think that you would love to have Saka play left attacking role, just to facilitate having Aubameyang as a point man again, which he hasn't been all season, to be honest. And the man's still blasting goals in like it's something else. Guys, we're going to talk about Torreira. What would you give Torreira out of 10? Guys in the chat, what's your grades for Torreira? Tom and his daughter, go. What would you give Torreira?
I don't know. Torreira's probably the toughest one to do, because he was being played at attacking midfield for a while, which really didn't suit him. There's been certain games where he's been left totally exposed. Torreira is what he is. He's a defensive ball winner, and he can actually play the ball out as well. When he's played in the right position, he's been good. When he hasn't played in the right position, he hasn't been good. So I'll give him a 5. I like Torreira. I think Torreira easily gets into our best 11. You know, he's a good player when he's used correctly, but when he's not used correctly, he struggles.
Okay, so Tony, we've got Jalse saying 5, and we've got 18 saying 7. Tony, Torreira.
Okay, Torreira, I've got a mixed bag of emotions about him, because, you know, he has some games where he's absolutely phenomenal as a stopper. You know, he just breaks up play. His interceptions are high. You know, he does really good things. I mean, the game last year against Tottenham was just phenomenal. It was like just orgasmic watching him play, and he topped it with a goal that was just sublime. And then the overhead kick.
I don't mean to cut in, but I had both teams to score, Arsenal to win, and Torreira to score.
I remember that.
I won it. Yeah, I put 20 quid on it. I got about 520 quid back. It was brilliant.
I remember
Sorry,
that.
carry
on.
Yeah, so that one for me was his finest hour. Yeah, we know what he can do, and Tom is right. He, you know, when played in the right position, he's just Mr. Reliable. He is a very good interceptor of plays, very good at positioning himself where he can intercept the ball. My issue with that is that, for me, he's just not vocal enough. I feel that he's the kind of player that does a job but doesn't contribute to the overall way in which the team play. And in that, all I mean is when you're sitting in the middle of the park, I kind of expect the vocal side to be Granit Xhaka, but the physical side to be Torreira. And what you're looking for is a mixture of the two. And that's where Guendouzi comes in my estimation. Is Guendouzi has the physical side and he has the vocal side. So Torreira, I do like him. I just wish he was a foot taller and a lot more vocal. And so to that end, I'm going to give him, he's still a good player for us. I'm going to give him a 6.
Right, so we've got Kez has given him a 6.5. Ebony, before I let you go, do you want me to go first?
Who, me?
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go?
First.
Okay, I'm going to go with a 7.5. The biggest success that Unai Emery had in his first season was playing Torreira at defensive holding midfielder. The biggest failure that Emery had in his second season was not playing Torreira as a defensive midfielder. He wanted him to play further up the pitch in the diamond to win the ball back, and it just didn't work. And one of the things that we saw with Arteta, one of the adjustments was Arteta finally started to play him in his natural position, and he still looked good. He looked even better even. And the injury was a real shame. But I just want to go back on the point I made about Callum Chambers. When Emery got sacked and the team was playing awful, 2 players stood out. It was Torreira and it was Callum Chambers. And they were running their socks off, working hard, did not quit. And I have to admire Torreira for that. And this grade is for the whole season. And for me, he's somebody who was a victim of being played out of his position in a ridiculous role, which no top manager would have played him in. How can you, after the season he had last year, when those games in the 22-game winning streak, those games against Liverpool at the Emirates, against Spurs, when he just punched people in their face and was so aggressive on the defensive back end, and then you take him away from that, it just doesn't make any sense. And look, that's cost Emery's job. Fair enough. That's gone. Let it go. But what he started to do under Arteta, gaining the role again when Xhaka was struggling and just forfeiting that position, just brilliant. Just absolutely brilliant. For me, 7.5. Ebony, go for it, man.
Now that he's playing in his natural position, I'm going to give him a 7. Like what everybody else said, when Emery was there, he was, and it wasn't his fault. It wasn't Torreira's fault that he wasn't effective in a number 10 role. He's effective there. So when you've got a manager who has this Wengerism about him by playing players out of position that they can't actually handle, that's what you get. You don't get the player that we bought in the first place. So, but now that he's in his right position, he's actually playing like the player that we saw in Italy. So, bearing in mind that he's now back in his position, I'm going to give him a 7.5. Because that is his position. He is a defensive midfielder. He should be playing as a defensive midfielder. He looks comfortable there. We know he looks comfortable there. He was not comfortable in playing on the wing or anywhere else but that position. That's his position. So yeah, 7.5.
Okay, guys, and guys in the chat as well. Granit Xhaka. This is going to be fun. I can just see the scores right now piling up. Tom, Granit Xhaka.
This is going to have to be my last one. I've got to shoot off, I'm afraid, guys.
No problem, man. And I appreciate you joining us, giving your time. Hope to get you guys back.
No problem.
And also, so give your grade and then tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Okay, so Granit Xhaka. See, Granit Xhaka's 2 players. Under Emery, it's a 4. Under Arteta, it's an 8. Everything we do comes through Xhaka. Under Arteta, he's very vital to what we do. We have the inverted fullback, which is Saka, who goes forwards. Xhaka fills in for him. He's left less exposed. I think part of the reason Xhaka's looked so bad at times is just because he gets left exposed. I don't think he's a bad player. He loses his head a little bit, but I quite like his combativeness and like how he's up for a scrap and that kind of thing. And he's got a good passing range on him when he's given the time and the space. And this system suits him. So we're just going in the middle. We're going to go with a 6. I know he's another player that divides opinions, but I'll give him a 6. I think we're a better side when he plays than when he doesn't. So
okay, and where can everybody find you on Twitter? Obviously, you're on 101 Facebook, so people can find you there.
Oh man, I'm actually, believe it or not, I'm not really a big social media person. I'm called @TheStinTaylor on Instagram. I'm on the 101 page, and I don't have a Twitter. So.
Excellent, good. And obviously, guys, he's in Goon Squad with the many tens and hundreds. That's on Goon Squad. He's in there as well.
Not anymore.
But thanks.
I left.
Oh yeah, 5G. Oh my God,
I'll be back.
5G.
I'll be back. The conversation was a little bit not enough about Arsenal for my liking for a little while, so I'm going to jump out.
Right,
and this
brilliant.
is Jasmine. This is the junior gunner.
Nice one, Jasmine.
Wait.
Thank you, Jasmine,
Hello.
for joining us. I appreciate it.
We got a date. We're going to watch Iron Man 3 now. So.
Oh, brilliant. Fantastic. Great movie. Extremist story arc. Great movie. So, listen, thank you very much. I appreciate it and hope to get you back on the show as well. Guys. Brilliant. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Good to see you all.
Nice
one.
Bye.
Bye.
Right. So, Tony, let's talk about Xhaka. Hold on. Is there anybody? Yes, we've got. Oh, my God. Look at this. 18 has gone. 0
Wow.
And he says, wow, my God.
Wow.
I knew that was coming. Giles says gone 7, so that's not bad. That's pretty decent. And Kez has gone 6. That's decent. Tony, fire away, man.
Granit Xhaka. What can I say? This guy is he should be a Gemini. He's a dual character. It's like the good he's like the good or the bad. And I say that because I myself am a Gemini. The good can be so good. The bad is so awful. Unfortunately, with the way he conducted himself through the early part of the season, I'm going to have to go with the bad side, I'm afraid. Again, Arteta has got him playing a tune, doing really good stuff, but I personally don't believe he's the future for our club. I understand what Tom said in relation to him being pivotal in the way we play, because he is. He allows Saka the opportunity to bomb forward and join in play with the front players. But going forward, I just don't want to see him at our club. I really want to see us go out and buy somebody else who can actually do a better job. It's a difficult find, but we've talked about Decore and other players, Ndidi, etc., who could potentially come in and do a better job, I feel. But yeah, for me, I'm going with the bad side of Xhaka. At best, I've given him as a 2.5.
Yeah. And listen, I'm gonna have to go with you guys. Look, I have to be honest, and you know I am. I try to be as fair as I can when it comes to him, but he's such a. I mean, he constantly gives the ball away to the other team, and there's no reason for it. He's slow. He gets run by quickly and easily. I like the fact that he's made some adjustments under Arteta, and I love the fact that when Saka moves forward, he goes back into that left back position and facilitates the shape that we need. So for that reason, I'm not going to be too harsh on him, but at best he gets a 3 for me because he adds nothing to the team. People say he's a great passer. I look at the chances created, the assists and everything. He's all over the place. There's just nothing there. I like to see someone with a range of passing put the defense on their back foot and create chances just by break. And I see Mustafi do it. I see David Luiz do it. I saw Pablo Mari do it in the game that he played. But I haven't seen enough of that from Xhaka. And I just think that he's a liability. He's an accident waiting to happen. And I think you can do so much better than him. He can't tackle. He was the most red-carded player in Europe when we bought him. He started getting red cards at Arsenal. Wenger then told him not to go down on his knees. Since then, he's been a passive player with no bite. It's just we've been carrying. He's a player that we've been carrying for a very long time. And when he's on the field, I always feel that we've got 10 men instead of 11. And for me, I just don't think that he's somebody who would be in Arteta's plans. I'd be shocked if he's still here next season. Ebony, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Yep.
Right,
Granit Xhaka, yep.
Granit Xhaka, yes. For a 3 at best. He can't pass. His short passing's woeful. The only thing he's got to his game is that it is the long range. That is all he's got to his game. He can't tackle. He causes too many back passes that go awry. He gives the ball away at every given opportunity. I personally don't think that he is the player that that Wenger bought. But then again, Wenger's bought a lot of players based on what they do in leagues in different countries, and then they get to the Premier League and they're absolutely woeful. The fact that he spends more time dawdling on the ball than actually passing. Yes, you can argue that there are parts of his game that he has improved under Arteta, but then there are times when he goes back to his Wenger self. So on that basis, he's going to get a 3. I was actually pushed to give him a 1, but I thought, there are parts of his game that he has improved, but then he slips back into his old self. So 3.
Okay, so 18's making me laugh there because he's talking about when I said since Wenger bought Mustafi and Xhaka, we have not made the top 4. And in my opinion, with those two players, you can't make the top 4 with those two players. Competition is just too good. Teams are just too good right now. And I don't think you can make the top 4 with a player like Xhaka. You cannot carry a player in this day and age of football. You can't do it. So, and Danny Ceballos. Guys in the chat, what would you give Danny Ceballos out of 10? Tony, that's your boy right there. Ceballos, talk to me, man.
Yeah, well, Ceballos is, now you see me, now you don't. I mean, he obviously had some issues with Arteta when Arteta came because Arteta wouldn't play him for a while. I know he was injured for a while. I feel conflicted because I want to give him a really high mark, but I've also got in the back of my mind the fact that he's expressed his wishes to move on to pastures new at Real Betis, which is a real shame. He's the kind of player I think we could do some damage with a guy like that in our squad. But yeah, when he's come on, he's been effective. He's been effective, and that's what we want with our midfielders. We want them to impact the game, and he certainly has the ability to do that. I like that he's a guy that wants to get constant touches of the ball. His heat map is ridiculous. He gets touches all over the pitch. He's that guy that moves the ball quickly from defense into attack.
Exactly.
And we've lacked that for a little while. The best guy ever doing that for me was Robert Perez, and we're yet to see a player of that ilk who could take the ball from defense and in a 3-4 second span be creating something else at the other end in tandem with Dennis Bergkamp, of course. So yeah, I like the guy. I'm gonna give him a 7.
Okay, it's a fair shout. So we've got Giles has given him a 6. We've got Kez who's given him a 6 as well. And I believe 18 has given him an 8. So that's a good shout there. I think I'm going to give him a 7.5 because I don't think at the beginning of the season he followed through after that Burnley game. He was brilliant there, and we just didn't see the same level from him. Then he got injured. and after the injury, it took him a while to get back, and then he got back to his great self. What sets him apart is the way he knows how to break up play. He knows what to do with the ball. He knows where to go with it. He can defend. He can backtrack. He can tackle. He can play a through ball. He just knows he's an all-round player. People talk about Ramsey was never replaced. You're right, he wasn't. But if Ceballos, and I don't think Ceballos will stay with Arsenal. I think he will go and play for Real Betis, his boyhood team, which is a real shame because I think he can be a replacement for Aaron Ramsey. But I would give him a 7. I'd give him a strong 7. I really would. Quality player. And it's a shame that he got the injury because how good would it been if he was fit this season? Anyway, he's fit now. We're on an 8-game winning streak. As I said, 5 clean sheets. So let's see what happens with him now. Ebony, are you still around?
Yes.
Ceballos.
When he's played, Ceballos. When he's played, he's controlled that midfield, and I'll give him a 7. I wish that he wasn't injured because we would have seen the best of him, but he has. And then there was a point where Arteta wouldn't play him at all. For whatever reason, he needed to do more in training. Only Arteta can actually answer that because we don't see them in training. So, but when he has played, I've been impressed. And like I said, he's controlled the midfield, especially that game against West Ham. So I'm going to give him a 7.
That's a decent shout. I think let's move on to Guendouzi now. Again, guys in the chat, what would you give Guendouzi? Tony, Guendouzi.
Okay, so love his passion for the game. Absolutely love his passion for the game. So passionate so that he fell out with Arteta at the beginning of his tenure with some vocals of his own. But I love the kid's passion. From one so young, so tender. Sometimes he does overplay a little bit, but he's got, so much upside to look forward to. I think he's one to look towards as becoming, a dominant midfielder. He's going to build up a bit. He's going to build up his shoulders, his legs. He's going to become a dominant force. He's already quite vocal across the park. So, I think he's still got some fine refinement to make. But I think with someone like Arteta, we could be seeing somebody, something quite unique with Guendouzi, I'm hoping. So far this season, start of the season, I know you and I have
really
talked about there's so many men of the match.
Four in the first 7 games.
Kind of quelled down a little bit under Emery. And then, as you said, he had his little run-in with Arteta during the start, but he seems to have got back into the groove and started to, show the manager that, I can do a job. So, yeah, I'm going to give him a 7 as well. I see so much upside.
A lot of people's agreeing with you, Tony. We've got 18 who agrees with you. He's gone for a 7. Kez has gone for a 7. Big shout out, Kez. We've got Jalse. He's going for a 5, I believe. Yep, we've got a 5 from him. Arsenal Vlogs is saying a 4. And again, for me, I have to hit home the fact that 4 man of the matches in the first 7 games, which saw Arsenal 3rd in the league. And it just an amazing talent. The one player that Arteta talked about when he first came to Arsenal, that he was watching the games, was Guendouzi. Arteta loves him. And I think with what happened with the late to training things and all that stuff, I'm sure he was disappointed, but they're past that now. And Arteta sees somebody that he can build a team around in the midfield. And for me, he's got everything in his lock. He just lacks that little bit of discipline and needs to play the ball quicker as well. And for me, I think that's a good shot. I'll give him a 7. I'll definitely give him a 7. He started the season so well. He's got so much upside to his game and really has a bad game as well. I don't think I've given him many horrible performances for the Gunners. Ebony, what's your grades on Guendouzi?
Yeah, Guendouzi. He's actually going to be a special player as he gets older. I mean, like, you know, he's only 2021. You know, he does have some mistakes in his game. He does. I think sometimes he spends too long on the ball. But then that will come out of his game as he gets older. I think he partners very well with Torreira. And I think he'll be a very good replacement for Xhaka, personally. But that's just my opinion, because I don't rate Xhaka. But once he irons out those mistakes, once he stops, spending too much time on the ball, he'll be a special player. I'll give him a 7 as well.
Excellent. So Joe Willock, everybody. Joe Willock, and guys in the chat, what would you give for our 20-year-old Joe Willock? Tony? It's a tough one, man.
I actually think Joe Willock has, again, a lot of upside to look forward to, but he has flattered to deceive this season. He's not been as effective as I thought he could be or should be, especially compared to how he finished at the end of last season. I'm going to give him a 5. I think he needs to up his game. He actually needs to up his game. He's one of them players that I think the manager's shown a great deal of patience with him. I've shown a great deal of, trust to put him in a position to go out and do some stuff on the pitch. It's one of them things. I always look at players and I think, what is this player going to look like in 5 years' time or 10 years' time? I remember talking to many people and saying, like, Jack Wilshere, what's he going to be like? Is he going to be a Steven Gerrard? Is he going to be a Frank Lampard? Is he going to be an Iniesta? And I could never find what player he was going to look like. And that for me was the undoing of Jack Wilshere. Not even mentioning his injuries, but I could just never see how he was going to be, a great player, because I couldn't see where his ceiling was going to be. Joe Willock, I kind of see him, potentially being a 10 at some point in his career. I kind of see him being that kind of ball winner, or a player who can deliver stuff at the top end of the pitch. But this season he's been poor, so 5 from me. But keep them peeled.
Okay, so guys, we just to let you guys know, this is going to be the last one that we're going to do because we've run at 2.5 hours at the moment. So we'll focus on the strikers next week. We've got the goalkeeper, the defense, and the midfielders out of the way. But for Joe Willock, he started brightly. He had that game against Liverpool in the Carabao Cup where he just ran the whole show. For me, he was man of the match. Him and Martinelli were just running the show that game, and he was superb. But since then, he's just been a disappointment. And Arteta's actually playing him. The first person who comes off the bench is normally Willock. And he's that box-to-box option. And, he's I don't know he's got technique. He's got the strength. He's got vision. People have compared him to David Rocastle in terms of his ability for Arsenal. But he's just not grabbing the ball by the horns in the way that other players are. Look what Saka's doing. Look what Reece Nelson has been doing when he's on the pitch. I can't say Joe Willock is doing the same. He's not making use of the time that he has and the opportunities. And unless he puts his foot down, he's going to be another Craig Eastwood and all them guys. He's just not going to be that player who's going to make it at this level. So I'm going to give him a 4, and I'm being generous. Arsenal Blogs has given him a 5. 18's given him a 2. Jalsa has given him a 5. And Kez has given him a 5 as well. Says, Willock, he hasn't taken his chance. And for me, I don't know if he knows what his best position is. And that's it. His best position is supposed to be the Aaron Ramsey, Danny Ceballos, box-to-box midfielder. but I just think that he's just not getting it done. And there's another player who we're going to talk about next week, who we're not going to talk about today, called Emil Smith-Rowe, and he's been doing a way better job this season at his team, and he's just pouring it on every week. He's on it, but we'll talk about that next week. And unfortunately, Willock's just not there yet. Ebony, you got the conch on this one.
Okay, Willock. I think he's not been that bad, actually. I mean, when he's come on, he's shown some flashes of brilliance, but they've all most of those performances for me have been as a sub. But I'd like to see him come out from the start and and see what he can do. When he has come out as a start, it's been in cup games, but I want to see him in the Premier League. I want to see what he does for a whole game in the Premier League for me to actually say, yeah, okay, you've got it, son. But right now, I give him a 6, because when he has come on, he's done stuff. He's done bits, to be fair. So, I'll give him a 6.
That's a decent shout. So, guys, listen, we're going to leave it right there. It's we're 2.5 hours up at the moment, so I just want to thank everybody in the chat. You guys are great. You guys are the reason why we come here and we do this weekly show. It's been 4 months now, 16 episodes of this podcast we've been doing, and it's growing really well. I've been checking out all the monitoring and all the analytic numbers, and you guys are enjoying it. Most people are spending an average of 2 hours watching this, so it's definitely good content. And so I want to appreciate you guys for making this what it is. And also to the panel, Ebony, Tony, thank you very much. You know where to find these guys. Let me just put this up as well. Tony, where can we find you on Twitter? Hold on a second. I think he's muted, so I'll just unmute him.
Yeah.
There you go.
Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all under Pugilist Boy. For those of you who struggle with that, Pugilist Boy just means boxing, because that's what I do. I'm a boxing historian.
He's a boxing boy.
Excellent. He's a boxing boy. I love it. Listen, Junior Gunner in the house. Ebony, where can we find you?
Facebook, Ebony Kingston on Facebook. I'm on the 101 page as well. And I'm also on Twitter as well. Although, I'm also on Instagram, but I tend to use Facebook the most out of the 3. But I'm on Twitter as well, so you can catch me on that. And also 101. Yeah. And the Goon Squad as well in that on the WhatsApp page as well. Even though I don't make that many contributions, but the contributions that I do that I do read do crack me up.
Excellent. And guys, we haven't got T here at the moment to give the Goon Squad details. Hopefully he'll show up next week and give us that phone number that you need to get onto the Goon Squad page. Listen, Kez, I much appreciate it. Kez says, great show, people. Meeting the kids. I think that's been wonderful this Easter weekend, meeting Tom's little one and meeting Tony's young son. Much appreciated for that, guys. Who said that we weren't a family show? And listen, Mancini as well, I appreciate that.
Can I have a quick shout? My son Kyron has a YouTube channel. He's a YouTuber, and his channel's called Kyron's Crazy Adventure Channel.
Nice.
And subscribe.
Okay, Kyron, that's Kyran. Kyron's Crazy Adventure Channel.
Excellent. So, guys, look, I appreciate that, and I hope you guys have a wonderful Easter weekend, and hold it down. # stay safe. And listen, guys, I'm going to keep my lockdown videos going, and that's just about life. Yeah, lockdown is about life. That's all it is. It will have everything in there, from the coronavirus to sports to everything that you need to hear about. But this show on a Sunday at the moment, while there's no football on, we will still focus on football on this live podcast. We'll still focus on Arsenal. I know there's not a lot of Arsenal content in the weeks on the lockdown stuff, but that's just because there's not enough news out there. So that's why I'm doing a lot of other stuff. And as soon as Arsenal comes back, as soon as football comes back, I will be focusing 100% on every video on Arsenal. I promise you that. But at the moment, guys, hold it down. Love to your family. Stay indoors and stay safe. Peace, people.
Bye, fans.
Bye, Pete.
Bye.
Excellent.
Hi, Pete.